listening to Awake Radio. Straight talk for the awake and aware.
Good morning. You're listening to Alchemical Connections with Chrissy McMahon, and today we have a very special guest. We have Rob Sullivan, and he is going to be sharing with us some interesting information about a lot of things. I didn't open up my Facebook page, so I don't have the little advert that he's been spreading around viciously to make sure that people listen. But Rob, why don't you say good morning and tell us what we're going to talk about?
Well, good morning, Chrissy. It's really, really great to be here. Thanks for reaching out to me. You know, we've got a couple hours, and I put the word out to some very, very gifted and interesting friends throughout my Facebook network. And in a nutshell, over the last 44 months, I've gone through what I'm referring to as a knowledge apocalypse. It all started when I was working for AXA Equitable, and I had successfully beaten the market for, I guess, about 4 years in a row. I was able to get my clients out very close to the top before the financial crisis, and I was able to get them in very, very close to the bottom on the bounce up. And I had developed a cycle system based on mathematical cycles, but then it stopped working, and it also stopped making sense. And I have a background in financial writing. I studied a little bit of journalism and investigative journalism at NYU while I was working at Oppenheimer Funds at the World Trade Center. And it wasn't making sense to me. The deeper I dug, the weirder it got. And then I found the rabbit hole. And the rabbit hole that I found in the financial services industry actually seemed to be connected to everything else that didn't make sense, that the so-called, quote, conspiracy theorists like to talk about. Well, guess what? I'm highly educated. I'm one of the best networked people you'll ever meet in your life. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, I'm connected to the top banking and financial people in the world. I'm no cuckoo. I'm a smart guy. I've got an amazing education, an amazing background, and I've even spoken to doctors, and I've been analyzed to see if I had any symptoms of being delusional whatsoever. I've had 2 top doctors sign off saying, no, we couldn't qualify you or classify you as delusional in any way. So then I went deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more I found, the more I realized there was no bottom to the rabbit hole. The more you dig, the weirder it gets.
It's a black hole.
And then over the last 2 years, I really accelerated my studies. I actually, I ended formal employment, and again, like I had done in the past decade or so, last 15 years, started a new firm. And I've actually gotten the attention of a couple extremely high-level, in-the-loop multimillionaires that funded a business plan that actually backed me on a business plan that I was writing. And the business plan is designed to create a structural bridge for folks that, God bless them if they've got savings or retirement plans after everything that this country's been through. I then am able to show them pretty much how to go off grid with their savings in a way that's not only lawful but also legally protected under IRS code. It's a very, very overlooked code, and actually you really don't have much of a First Amendment right when it comes to discussing this particular strategy. If you're licensed in the industry, so I let my licenses expire. Now I'm going on my First Amendment rights to explain how to completely avoid federal interference in your savings plans. And my rabbit hole explorations have gone on several tangents off from there. I've got friends that are able to do things that Chris Angel does on TV, supposedly an illusion, and yet there seems to be more going on there. People are developing abilities. They're getting revelatory downloads. They're becoming experts in bodies of knowledge that they've never studied in school and do not have degrees in. And personally, this has happened to me as well. And then about 13 months ago, through a series of serendipity, and let me tell you, Chrissy, there's a lot of serendipity involved in this. It's almost as if, well, I'll just come out and say it. It's as if, divine providence or intelligent outside sources are actually guiding the awakening process for many people in my network. And we're able to access information and knowledge from what's referred to as the Akasha or the Akashic record without becoming professors, surrounded by encyclopedias and hard to find books. We're finding this information. It's coming to us. And for those of you who are also fans of The Secret and students of the Law of Attraction, let me tell you, the DVD and the book just barely scratched the surface. There's a way to amplify the Law of Attraction. And, there's really nothing that you can't do. Now, I know that, Chrissy, your focus is in women's empowerment. I'd like to have one of my friends on this morning, calling in with me to discuss how she was able to recover from a disease that the CDC doesn't even want you to know exists. And the reason that the CDC doesn't want you to know it exists is because it's something that more and more people are coming down with. And they're basically telling doctors to say it's psychological symptoms and it's not real. It's something a little bit like chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia times 100. And some people refer to it as Morgellons. Then we've got another guy. Yeah, we've got another guy coming on, Caleb. And Caleb is a 17-year-old homeschooled teenager who started getting visions of advanced Tesla tech designs. He was seeing blueprints of devices that were supposedly suppressed in the earlier part of this century, that basically bankrupted Nikola Tesla. And there are other people that are also getting these revelatory downloads as to how this technology exists. Now, Caleb in particular is able to do a breathing exercise that one of his mentors taught him. And then with no chemical leverage, no psychedelics, no ritual, no incantations whatsoever, nothing occult, Caleb is then able to transport his consciousness into hyperspace, and he's able to see visually with ultra high definition down to the molecular level of any energy field that he decides to focus on and explore. And what I'm trying to do is coach him through exploring not just physical fields and mechanical designs, but also morphogenic fields that are emotional and social. Because what we want to do is be able to quantify everything that the current establishment calls soft sciences. They refer to hard sciences as measurable chemistry, physics, and it looks like we're going to be able to get quantitative, in-depth measurement of the soft sciences, the social sciences, the emotional sciences, the psychological sciences. Everything is clockwork. Everything can be fine-tuned. Everything can be deconstructed and re-engineered. And if you'd like, I could talk about that as well.
Wow. Well, I think we've been on for, 6 minutes, and I'm almost lost. I don't know what you're talking about. But just let me qualify here. This
Sure.
is Alchemical Connections, and this is a menagerie of all kinds of ideas and thoughts and all kinds of different people from all different genres, authors, artists, musicians, researchers, all kinds of people that and I even had channelers. I've had all kinds of people on that I've spoken to, and I just have a eclectic, interesting mix of people who have something to say that's just really important. And I thought we were going to talk about alkalized water, but maybe this has something to do with with
Yes.
how we're getting to this place, or maybe it's something different. I don't know, but it sounds interesting. So
Well,
I'll just let you keep talking.
sure, sure. If you'd like to start out with alchemical water, I'll be honest with you. Just about everything that I'm going to tell you is going to
It's
almost sound like
alkalized water.
alkalized water. Um, I'll tell you what I know, and then I'll tell you what's been revealed to me via RD, or revelatory download. And through a series of revelatory downloads and serendipities, I came up with a formula for charging and blessing alkalized water. And basically, I've got a friend who I met through my neurolinguistic and Ericksonian hypnotherapy trainings, maybe about 17 years ago. His name is, we'll call him Dr. Bill. And Dr. Bill is a chiropractor, but an advanced chiropractor. Most people, like some people, when they hear the word chiropractor, they're like, okay, okay. Now, this guy's amazing. He does something called network chiropractic. And he doesn't even have to touch your body, or if he touches your body, it's just his fingertips and certain acupressure points. And you actually feel the energy surge throughout your body and then click into place with him barely touching you, which is like, I guess most Americans would consider that paranormal or, quote, hard to swallow, but this is just a daily part of our lives. It's just not, publicized on television because it's too disruptive for, I guess, the mass consciousness for people to know that things that that they see in maybe science fiction movies are, everyday occurrences. So I bought a Kangen water machine from Dr. Bill. And then within a day or two, I mean, my wife and I, our bodies just completely flushed out. And the more water we drank, the thirstier we became because our body was readjusting to really getting, the right kind of water in the body. Now there's a pH scale, and there are chronic diseases such as cancer, diabetes, really just about every chronic disease you can think of really only manifests and continues within an acidic uh, environment or an acidic body system. And if the human body is slightly alkaline, chronic diseases, including cancer, including stage 4 metastatic cancer, will not be able to continue to grow and progress throughout the body. So that alone, just for health reasons, because I'm a little bit lazy, to be honest with you, I don't work out much, and I don't always eat right, and I'm very, 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 very busy. And I'm trying to change my habits, but I always look for leverage where I can. I'm the king of shortcuts, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And so what I did was I took the alkalized water, and then I, like a lot of people, I had heard about the work of Dr. Emoto. And Dr. Emoto did studies on how water crystals or snowflakes, basically, let's call them snowflakes, whether if the water was blessed with an intention of love, the snowflake would have a very beautiful six-sided hexagonal geometric pattern. And if the water were infused with emotions of stress or words of harm, the water really, it just kind of looked like a dirty puddle that got frozen in different directions. And there was some controversy around this, but I really think that the evidence supported Dr. Emoto, and it was beautiful. And most people that are into natural health, light work, or healing know about his work. So the idea is that if you can infuse the water with an emotion or a feeling or a concept, the water will maintain almost like a programmable DNA molecule. The water will reconfigure. Now, the thing about the Kangen machine is it's already doing this for you to a great degree. It's alkalizing the water, and then the water arranges itself in a pattern that it normally doesn't do in nature, and it certainly doesn't do through your faucet or your water filter. It arranges itself into hexagonal patterns. So you've already got a sacred geometry taking place in the water, along with it being highly alkaline. We set our water to 9.5 alkalinity, which is as high as you can go. And you can even get it up to 10 if you let the water come out of the machine slowly. And it's for a lot of people, it causes, you know, a little bit of diarrhea for a day or so. But once your body adjusts, you're living at a different frequency from that point on. So yes, there are folks that are extremely disciplined with their vegan diet, their sun gazing, their grounding practices, their meditation practices. They live the life. However, if it's someone like me that's newly awakened and they kind of have the personal health habits of a frat boy or something, I mean, what you want to do is you want to jumpstart it. I mean, here we are. It's after December 21st, 2012. We're at the dawn of the golden age. The earth is shifting in frequency, and you might not have time to get up to date on everything that your neo hippie friends know about. With this, you can jumpstart the whole thing. And I'm not selling a product right here. Believe it or not, I'm not even a distributor. So this is not a commercial. I just want to give you guys information. I really piss a lot of people off giving away information that's proprietary, that can be used to profit, that can be used to overprice things. But I just want to get the word out. I want as many people to wake up as possible and know that they no longer have to have chronic disease. So when Dr. Emoto did his experiments on charging the water or blessing the water with intention, he even took it a step further and he tested the boundaries, if you don't mind me using the term, the morphogenic field, which is the energy structure of the intention or the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And he just put a little label on the bottle. Like he would put the water in a bottle, and the label would say, I love you, or I hate you, you make me sick. And he was getting the exact same water readings from the crystalline patterns that he got when the water was intentionally worked with an individual. So what I did is I took a bottle. I have a guy that I'm really impressed with that I met at an Evolve Fest last year. He goes by the name of Davy Oneness, and I get the most amazing Egyptian glass bottles from him. And if you'd like to see me actually charge this water, message me on Facebook, but you could also find me on YouTube. The name of my channel, it's not a publicized channel, it's really for friends. The name of the channel is RF space Sul, S-U-L. That's me, Robert Francis of the Sullivan family. And you'll be able to see me actually charge the water with one of my friends, Joelle. And on Facebook, Joelle's name is L. Everfor. And I could spend an entire show talking about her. But when she's doing her healing work, she begins to channel an extremely ancient warrior priestess. I believe, the English translation of the name is Sincerity Air. Sincerity, and then the word air is the name of the angel that she's channeling. And basically, she's speaking a language that sounds like a cross between Gaelic and it sounds like it's a cross between Gaelic and Sanskrit. It's an Atlantean language, or maybe even a pre-Atlantean language, and I'm feeling the presence. So she's in there in the video with me. I'm blessing the water. I put the Kangen water into the Egyptian glass bottle, and the Egyptian glass bottle is engraved, laser etched with a pattern of the flower of life, the sacred geometric form, basically universal DNA, the first sacred form of linked circles within circles, the flower of life. And so the intention is engraved on the bottle already with love. So what we do is we put the Kangen water into there. And then I have a friend who is an expert in alchemical formulations of ormus and monoatomic gold oils. And I take a dram of 3 Kings oil of gold, which is an alchemical mix of monoatomic gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And I put a full eyedropper full of that into the bottle. I put the Kangen water, which is already alkalized in hexagonally arranged molecules, into the bottle. I put a green little screw on top of it. It's a magnetizing ring. And then I put another bottle on top of it. So think of that old little science demonstration that you did in grade school with like an upside down plastic soda liter, and then one on the bottom, and then there's a ring in the middle, and then you swirl it, and then you turn it upside down, and then it almost like an hourglass, but with a water vortex, spins around and goes into the lower bottle. So we do this while holding the bottles to the heart chakra and then putting our forehead on the top bottle to represent the connection of the pineal. And we do the heart chant, ah. And as we're chanting the ah, we're feeling the vibration of love go into the water while it's being toroidally spun and magnetized from one sacred geometric Egyptian glass bottle into the other. And I got to tell you, I mean, one glass of this stuff, I can't explain to you the shift. If you're a person who is sensitive as to their internal kinesthetic, their internal feeling states, the feelings of different emotions, different frequencies, one glass of this, well, I mean, better than a cup of coffee. You should have this in the morning instead of that, because this is alchemical technology to completely recharge, refresh, and even reorient, maybe even reprogram your DNA first thing in the morning, or activate yourself, you know? So this is something that maybe I could turn into a product. Maybe this is something where I could create maybe a very, very short video and booklet on. But I wouldn't charge a lot. I want the information to get out there. And also my friends and family can get it from me for free. I'll probably, if you message me on Facebook, I'll get it to you for free. Or if you have an idea, you're good at web marketing and you'd like to resell it as an associate, maybe we could talk about doing something like that. So there are ways to turn it into a profitable business, but I really feel I'm more of an evangelist. I want to get it out there and empower other people to make money off of it. The reason I'm not too worried about money is because one of the things that got me onto my path was during my investigative journalism phase, trying to crack the code of life insurance code as it is internationally recognized by governments and government agencies such as the IRS. I found a way to take very expensive insurance policies and deconstruct them, pull all the fees out, or most of the fees out of them. And then I found a way to legally comply and put any type of investment into the insurance policy. And as long as we follow certain guidelines, we can put in alternative media, startup projects. We can put like alchemical education type businesses into it. We can put edutainment, entertainment. And my real passion is communications and creative projects. So the goal is that in early 2014, we want to be launching a private equity fund that will be effectively tax exempt because it will be held within an insurance policy and allow people to get their life savings or retirement assets into these structures so that they don't have to worry about any tax consequence, paperwork, reporting, anything. It's going to be an extremely liberating thing. If you'd like to know how
Rob,
go ahead.
I'm gonna pause you for a second so
Sure,
I
thanks.
can let everybody know that we are also simulcasting on We Roar, and I'd like to thank April Rain and everybody at We Roar for the opportunity to do this. So thank you. Go ahead.
Great. And listen, if you ever want to jump in and just refocus me, I'm infamous for going off on tangents and losing
Well,
track.
I'm really interested in the alkalized water, and I kind of like what you're saying about that. But you're talking to somebody who drinks distilled water, and I've been doing it since 2010. And you mentioned that you were really thirsty, and all I can think of is that you're drinking water that's just been added chemicals to increase the alkalinity, and I'm drinking water that's pure H2O. There's no minerals, there's no chemicals, there's nothing in there. Even the VOCs are pretty much removed because we carbon filter before and after. So, it's not that I disagree with you, and it's not that I think that you're not getting something, and it might be from the proton cloud that's or our galaxy, who knows, from the black hole, the center of our galaxy. I have no idea. Or from outer space. I know that a lot of people are going through really interesting changes in their thinking, in their physical body, and otherwise. But you know, I just have a little bit of a concern because I know what alkaline water is, and I know what monatomic gold is. I know that monatomic gold is addictive. So and you're using, you know, some kind of an oil. You said, I think that's what, some kind of oil resin or something that's being put in the water.
Well, Chrissy, if I could jump in. By the way, thank you for the request for clarification. There's no chemical added to Kangen water whatsoever. We live on the top of a mountain. We get our water from a fresh water supply that's never been fluoridated without any additives at all. So we're very lucky. So we're getting something even better than distilled water, which is mineral water from the mountain.
Yeah, but you're forgetting that we have rain and we have the particulate in the air. So, you know, you can't discount what's being thrown on us from overhead.
I'm not arguing with you about the benefits of clean distilled water. As a matter of fact, maybe even distilled water could be, you know, superior. But I want to correct one misconception that you have about alkalization. There's no chemicals added to alkalize the water. The water is charged electrically. Okay? So the water is charged electrically, and that's not alchemy. If you put the water into an Egyptian glass bottle that's engraved with the intention of love with the flower of life on it, you know, that's not a chemical additive either. And in the video, when I add a few drops of 3 Kings oil of gold just to amplify everything, because that's like knocking it up a couple orders of magnitude, that's completely up to the person if they want to take it to that level. Actually, it's very hard to get alchemical monoatomic gold. It's always given in very low doses, and it's not even necessary. So it's really, that's not the crux of my argument. The crux of my argument is that if we could take distilled water and your understanding of what it does for you, and if we could charge it and we can alkalize the water, and alkalinity is a charge. It is either a positive or a negative charge. What we're doing is we're increasing the negative charge of the water. I also said that when I first started taking it, I was very thirsty and needed to drink it all the time. That's because the entire fluid structure of my body needed to be released and purged as I was bringing in a superior, fluid, resonant fluid. I'm not using the right terms right now.
Well,
but
I think
just wanted to clarify
it's mineralized, the water that you're drinking. The alkalized water is still mineralized. So when you're drinking those minerals, that's going to make you thirsty. I mean, that's just common sense.
Okay.
I mean, well, I'm not saying that whatever
I'm not thirsty all the time anymore. I was just telling you that when your body readjusts to alkalized water, and what you want to do is you want your blood to be slightly in the alkaline side of the scale. You want your blood to have a negative charge to it where chronic disease and cancer can't grow.
Okay, so maybe I'm just not as advanced in my thinking, but I know if I eat acidic foods like lemons and limes and citruses and stuff like that, that is actually going to increase the pH on the alkaline side within my body, as it, whatever it does inside of my body. But I'm not actually adding alkaline per se food or liquids to alkalize my body. My body does that as a natural process. My body can do that on its own. So why would I want to add something that has to be, to be manufactured outside of the body, and for me to think that my body's going to benefit as well from that?
Okay, no, nothing's manufactured. The water is simply charged with a negative ionic charge, and then the water molecules are arranged hexagonally. We're really talking about two completely different things. I want to honor your question.
Well, sure, enlighten me, because that's why I brought you on, because I really want to know about this. I'm just trying to be devil's advocate and trying to increase my own understanding, because I really don't understand alkalized water. From what I understood, the machine that they used in 2010 that I was drinking from, they were adding something to it.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Well,
it,
yes, they were actually, and I disagree with that entire concept. Like you, I disagree with it. And if you'd like, I'll get shoulder to shoulder with you, and we'll shine a spotlight on those inferior machines that actually add something to the water to alkalize the
Absolutely.
water. Absolutely, Chrissy. Believe me, when I commit to a body of knowledge, and when I commit to becoming an expert in something, I've got to make sure I am never putting myself in a position of, like, being a cheerleader for something that I only had, incomplete information on. So I know about the inferior machines. Those are the ones that everyone buys. It's extremely hard to get a machine, or to get properly educated on the machines that simply ionize the water and then, reconfigure the molecules into the pattern. So what you would basically be drinking, Chrissy, is you'd be drinking distilled water, but it would be ionized. Now, let me also make a slight other correction. Sorry to go off on tangents, but
No, it's good.
eating lemons and limes and citrus does not acidify your bodily fluid, your blood, your tissues. Actually, it has a polar effect, because once it's processed through your system, it helps actually alkalize the body a little bit. But cheese, meat, carbohydrates, all of
Well,
these all of these acidify the body, and most
right.
people have a slightly acidic, um, you know, a pH to their blood. And the body does not know how to deal with that. It tries to deal with it all day, but it's a losing battle all day. People wake up groggy, they get older, they age faster, they retain weight, and they look in the mirror one day and they're like, whose face is this that's all puffy and wrinkly? And seriously, it's like, it doesn't, even if you're doing an Atkins diet, where you're putting your body into ketosis just to drop fat fast, that's cool. It works, but you're going completely acid, and you're going to have to recover from that, almost like a home rehab at some point. You're going to have to get alkalized again. And the only way that you can really alkalize your body naturally is to eat a diet of almost exclusively, green plants and vegetables. You know,
Right. Well, that's what I do.
right?
That's
Well,
and I recently just watched an interview on Guy MTV with a doctor who promotes alkalinity and I guess drinking alkaline water, because he was talking about 9.6,
mm-hmm,
and that was kind of at the end of the show, so I wasn't really getting an education about it, but from what he was saying, it was making sense. He was talking about when we eat food, that even if we eat greens and vegetables, he drinks green what do you call smoothies, veggie smoothies, that that's more beneficial, and our body can process it. But when we eat the vegetables and the fruit, even when we're chewing it, that we our body is not, unless we chew it to a pulp or to a liquid, we liquefy it, that we're not getting everything that we can out of the food. Um, and you kind of touched on, I think you did mention in the very beginning about breatharians. We're we're promoting, and I think in my case, I'm promoting something that's more akin to breatharianism. Some people are sun gazers, which, I have no qualms with that. 15 minutes out in the sun is plenty. Get that on your retina, and just generate that good sun healing energy. But back to breatharianism, there's evidence that the less you eat, the longer you live. Hilton
mm-hmm,
Hotem has a book, Man's Higher Consciousness, or maybe I'm saying it wrong. What the first chapter in the book is Man Eats to Die, and he says it's easier to argue that why man shouldn't eat than to argue why he should. So and even the Holy Science by Yertusware, I'm not saying that right either. He says that our teeth, the way our body's constructed, is we're supposed to eat a fruit diet. We're supposed to be fruitarians. So, more and more evidence that I'm coming up with, not firsthand, of course, but there's documented evidence of people in China and India and all around the world who have lived hundreds of years and don't even eat. So, you know, and this is government documentation. This isn't, you know, word of mouth or whatever. So there's a lot of evidence to the way I'm trying to live my life and the things that I'm trying to do. And like you, I still struggle with cooked foods or sugar, sweet stuff, you know, and things like that. Even though I know the devastation it does to my body, white flours, any kind of grains, you know, most people are allergic to wheat and things like that. Dairy, it's like the congestion that you feel. People think they're sick and their body's congested, and that's what that doctor was talking about. There's like 5 or 6 different stages of what the body goes through before the health starts to really deteriorate and you go into cancer or whatever. But since I'm not versed on all that, I'll quit right now and let you know that I wanted to take a short break at the top of the hour. So I'll let you continue, and I really appreciate what you're saying because I think you're bringing up a lot of awesome points. So go ahead, Rob.
Well, yeah, I completely, yeah, you know, the ideal. What is the ideal? What is the ideal glorified state of the human being? Well, I guess the glorified state is to eat very, very little, get most of your nutrients and most of your sustenance through breath, sun, prana, you know, prana, breath, the earth's energy, grounding. Yeah, absolutely. And I know, I mean, carbohydrates, white flour, Coca-Cola, you know, preferably Mexican Coca-Cola because it doesn't have the Monsanto corn syrup in it. But, you know, that should all be extremely rare, like special occasions, like, you know, New Year's treat, Thanksgiving treat. But I agree with you. The ideal is, you know, to just, you know, breathe in the universal energy and then bask in the nutrients of the sun. But I got to tell you, I mean, I think my mission appears to be to have one foot in the establishment reality and then one foot in true reality. And what you're talking about is true reality. And what we wanted, what I think that, you know, in terms of building a brand for knowledge apocalypse and you know, accessible alchemy for the common man, we don't want to shock them too much. We don't want to tell them that they don't need to eat. We don't right away because people will scoff. And the way that the established media has programmed us is to have certain knee-jerk reactions. Like the world's become so complicated and so inundated with useless false information that the way that the neurolinguistic engineers of the mass media have programmed us is to have certain immediate, like, oh, good, I know that that's crazy. I don't have to pay attention to that anymore. Oh, great, I can stop listening to this because this is new age BS. That's the way we're programmed. So what I'd like to do is, most Americans are thinking in terms of, okay, what product or service will help me get my life on track? One of the foot in the doors is to educate them about alkalization, and not alkalization of the water per se, but alkalization of their bodies through, you know, green, you know, leafy green vegetables and fruit. And then we slowly educate them to think about meat as something that they want to avoid or only do on special occasions. And then, of course, down the line, we want to educate them on what the lives of the animals are actually like in the factory farms and how horrific it is. But we don't want to overwhelm them again. You know what I mean? Because I used to be one of those people that got really angry and fired up and wanted to use my entire frontal cortex and my verbose, you know, way of communicating to just take people apart that I thought were idiots. And the most humbling experience of my life was during my awakening, and when I began to get these revelatory downloads. It's kind of like, what is a revelatory download? It's not a religious hocus pocus thing. It's not induced through ritual. It's not induced through invoking an entity. It's really just talking to your heart chakra, connecting your heart chakra to, you know, the higher pineal and crown chakra, and just bringing the information down that exists right outside of our thin membrane of space and time. And what's been shown to me, and by the way, I don't want you to think that I've got this, like, you know, messiah or prophet complex. That I'll be honest with
Oh,
you.
too late. I already know. No, I'm only
Okay.
kidding. Good, Rob. It sounds wonderful. It's a great conversation because we're talking about things we don't even talk about.
Right.
So keep talking.
Well, like I try to talk to my parents about this, and they basically disown me. Now I'm 45, and I don't need my mommy and daddy's approval, but I was very close to my parents growing up, and now we're completely alienated because they look at me through teary eyes and they tell me, "You've rejected our church, you've rejected our beliefs, you've rejected everything about us. What's happened to you? If you can come back to Thanksgiving dinner if we know that you're on meds." And it's heartbreaking because, when you go through the awakening process and you see the lie for what it is.
Okay. Well, can I ask how long have you been on this? Like, when did this start for you? When did you start your process here?
Well, my whole life I fancied myself as an intellect and a researcher and as a scientific-minded guy. And when I was a kid, I had met Carl Sagan on a cruise ship. I specifically asked my parents if we could schedule the vacation specifically to be on when he was on that ship. And then I stalked him and I interrupted him while he was kind of like very sternly correcting one of his teenage sons. I was 14. I finally just had to jump in and start talking to him. And like my whole life, I've always tracked people down who were my heroes and mentors, whose books I had read. In the early 90s, I met Marvin Minsky. I had dinner with Eric Drexler. I had dinner with the son of the late Richard Feynman on the campus of MIT. I never have a problem due to my ability to communicate clearly and from the heart and articulately catch people's attention. I'm also 6'4". I've got a strong presence. But the thing is, all of that left brain academic institutional establishment science got blown to bits a year ago when I did my first Peruvian shamanic ayahuasca circle. Are you familiar with these shamanic rituals that have come to North America out of Peru and Colombia and Brazil?
Well, maybe if you tell specific ones, but there's lots of different practices.
Right.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Well, I'm referring specifically to what they're talking about in the movie, DMT, the spirit molecule. What Sting talks about.
Okay, I didn't see that movie, but go ahead.
Oh, highly recommended. DMT, the spirit molecule. So basically, here's the deal. When I was a kid, I drank a lot. I was on the football team. After the game, it was beer, it was wine, it was liquor. And then in college, beer, a little bit of marijuana. And then I wanted to study more about marijuana, and I wanted to study more about psychoactive substances, but I never had the guts to ever do shrooms. I never had the guts to do LSD. I certainly didn't know what the heck ayahuasca was, because that's like really deep jungle shamanic medicine that I had only vaguely heard about through Terrence McKenna. But I knew that I didn't want to do a hallucinogen because I have had friends, and just the intensity of my energy and the way my mind works. I had a friend come up to me and say, "Hey, Rob, I've done like 100 acid trips, and I highly recommend that you never do one, because if you do, I think one of two things will happen. Either you'll think that you're God, or you'll cause World War III."
Well, yeah, I think that is a problem sometimes with this. This information can be so overwhelming, and I understand where your parents are at, and I understand where you're at.
Yeah.
It's so overwhelming, and either you accept it, you reject it, you wander around like I did, and think, does anybody else think like I do, and and drive your family crazy. Who mine listened to me, but they did think I was nuts, but they accepted me. But they didn't have a framework, except for Chrissy's crazy. She's always been nuts. She always says bizarre things. She's always over the top, blah, blah, blah. So, like, they kind of expected that from me. But I don't know what I'm trying to say. But I think, like, when you're talking about the Messiah complex, that is a real thing that happens to some people when we find out that we're all God. When somebody tells you you're God and you don't know how to process that, you're going to think you're Jesus Christ, and you're going to be, walking around saying, I'm God, I'm Jesus Christ. And people are not going to understand that. It's not going to translate. And they might not even think that they're like the savior, but they think that they are one in oneness, so it's so complicated.
Oh,
So
it is. It is. And the Messiah complex is when you bring your ego into the awakening. You think, I'm the only one that's having this awakening. I'll be honest with you, I went through that. Now, what I was trying to tell you is I had never messed with a hard drug or hallucinogen in my life until I was 44. And even then, it was nothing anyone had ever heard of. I went to upstate New York, and I was one of about 40 people who stayed up all night around a fire, and we had 3 shaman. We had one right from the jungles of Peru, couldn't speak any English. And then we had a couple Latin American friends who were brought up in the Church of Daime and, and had studied in the Amazon. And if you want to read about this, just, Google ayahuasca, Ayahuasca, and Terence McKenna, who's passed away but was the foremost researcher in what's called ethnobotany. And ethnobotany is the sacred plant medicines that don't get you high and don't give you a pleasurable, quote, trip, but they create an internal rapture within your mind. And what they do is they completely activate the pineal, so you lose all sense of space and time. And unlike other hallucinogens that are popular among kids and, psychonauts, this usually has a very specific archetype where you meet a divine female presence. And the female presence they refer to as grandmother, Pachamama, Aya. And most people go through a couple really crazy, somewhat disorienting trips before they ever meet this entity. Most people, they'll have like a vision of like jungle archetypes, leopards, insects being swallowed by a snake, a vision of an eagle, et cetera, et cetera. But I received my first dose of this medicine. It's the hardest thing to swallow in the world. And then I began to feel a little hypomanic. And then I began to feel manic. And I started to feel like, like I was developing a Messiah complex. So I went back to the shaman. I completely broke protocol, and I tried to stay calm. And I knew that this was an illusion. And I said, look, what I'm experiencing right now, I just experience when, I'm not in the best state of mental health. I said that I need more medicine. And then the shaman looked at each other, and they were actually happy. They didn't seem offended that I broke protocol and came up, out of line and came up and asked for more, like Oliver Twist. It wasn't like I got in trouble. They gave me the heaviest dose of ayahuasca that most people ever get, within their first few years. I could barely swallow it. And then about 20 minutes later, I was completely overwhelmed with the presence of what people call Gaia or grandmother Aya. And I was basically put into a full Nelson, spiritually speaking. I was like, just imagine someone playing possum, completely surrendering to the divine presence. And then came the downloads. And every question that I had ever had in my life since I was a kid, and I was always a very intellectual, annoying, precocious kid, every question I ever wanted to ask God when I died was answered. There was nothing that was withheld from me, nothing. And as amazing as that sounds, let me tell you, it's not even close to what happened next. Every event in my life, down to the nanosecond, I was shown the interconnective geometry of it. And I went through a lot of suffering in my life. I did not have a happy childhood. Basically, if you took my life and turned it into a Hollywood screenplay, they'd have to edit it down to make it less intense. They'd say it's too intense to even show. It's like, Quentin Tarantino level life drama stories. And every failure that I thought I had, or every moment that I thought was catastrophic, or like a lost relationship, or incredible pain, accidents, catastrophe, I was shown that absolutely had to happen at that point in time to make this happen, this happen, this happen. And then just the sense of divinity, being in the presence of divinity, to see that every moment of your life was absolutely perfect into leading up to what was next. Then I was shown my mission. And I wasn't shown the entire mission, but I was kind of shown the staircase. And you can't see more than a couple steps up. The stair is only illuminated when you take the step. It's kind of like that quote from Martin Luther King. You're not going to see the whole staircase. You're going to have to take the leap of faith. You're going to have to step into it and know that the next step will be there. And my entire life has been different. So if you look at the knowledge apocalypse that I've been through, apocalypse is Greek for revealing or lifting of the veil. It doesn't mean end of the world unless most people think apocalypse is like nuclear war. No, actually, apocalypse is the avoidance of nuclear war. It's the avoidance of self-destruction because the veil is lifted on the illusion. And then once you can see clearly, all the fear's gone. And there's no more drama. There's no more, struggle.
I love how you said that. And I think everything you're saying, it just needs to be said. And I think the conversation has to be expanded. And we need to talk about these things more. I love this, and I didn't know what we were going to talk about, and this is just amazing. I love it, Rob. Just keep going.
Yeah, well, listen, if I step outside myself and I look at myself from a third-party perspective, what do I see? I see a guy who's not bad looking. I see a guy who's highly trained, a guy who knows a lot of stars, who has had top training his entire life, and was also the #1 variable life salesperson on Wall Street. I mean, my clients were managing directors, and senior VPs and executive VPs of all the major Wall Street firms. Name a Wall Street firm, I've got a client in it. And I don't just have a client like in the mailroom. I've got a client that runs a trading desk. Okay, now look at me and look at what I'm talking about right now. Did I have a psychotic break? Am I delusional? Am I crazy?
No, I don't think
I had an experience. And I finally understand, I have a love-hate relationship with the faith that I was brought up with. I really love the truth behind the layers of congestion in the Bible, in the scriptures. But I don't like the way it's presented religiously. But I can tell you that I do understand the conversion of Saul of Tarsus now. The Apostle Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament. Basically, you've got a guy who was a temple assassin. Let's not pull punches. He was a goddamn temple assassin. He worked for the Pharisees, and when they wanted to take out a Christian like the first martyr Timothy, Saul made it happen. This guy was a hitman, okay? And he's on his way to Damascus to take out some more Christians, drag them kicking and screaming, from their house. And you got to realize, in the first 300 years of Christianity, it looked a lot like the New Age movement. I mean, people were doing their own miracles. It was really freaking out Rome. It was really freaking out the temple that people were ascending with these powers. And they knew that they had to co-opt it and stop it or take it over or something, because they didn't call themselves Christians either. They called themselves the Way, the brothers and sisters of the Way. Some people even called themselves, and it was kind of groovy, the Jesus and Mary chain, because Mary Magdalene was actually co-pilot of the original movement. And this completely freaked out the establishment. So they send Saul of Tarsus to go basically take a census of everyone that was part of this cult so that they could be exterminated. And he gets knocked off his horse. He's blinded by light. Now, I don't know if it literally happened where he's knocked off the horse, blinded by light in one moment. But let me tell you, in 6 hours between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. in the morning, on an early summer evening in an ayahuasca Peruvian shamanic circle, I had a similar experience. Because I was quite a son of a bitch. I mean, I had a good heart. I wanted to do the right thing, but I was completely controlled by, right-wing ideology. I was trying to make it as liberal as possible, but I was really hardcore. I was a foot soldier for the establishment. I mean, you got to be to even get access to the top people in the top offices of the Wall Street banks. I mean, they've got to know that you're part of the club, and I was part of the club. I'm as close as you could get to Irish Catholic, Illuminati as possible. I mean, that's a whole other story. If you'd like to interview me about my illegal Vatican kidnap adoption and my father's adventures in finance, I'll tell you all about my family's adventures in the 80s and 90s. Totally different story, but I'm sure it would get good ratings.
Sure. We're going to go take a break now, and we'll come back at the top of the hour, and we'll have more of Rob Sullivan. What an interesting conversation.
You see what sending out them negative waves did, Moriarty?
But Oddball, I did try and tell them, but they won't listen. I tried.
Sure.
But I did try.
Oh, man. Don't hit me with them negative waves so early in the morning.
But I can't force them to listen. I can't.
Always with the negative waves, Moriarty. Always with the negative waves.
Have a little faith, baby. Have a little faith.
But I keep trying. Oddball, I keep trying. But they won't listen. They won't tune in. They really won't.
Why don't you knock it off with them negative waves? Why don't you dig how beautiful it is out here? Why don't you say something righteous and hopeful for a change?
You're listening to Alchemical Connections on Awake Radio. I'd like to thank everybody for persevering through the volume changes. We had to really turn up the volume for our voices. You can't hear us when we're talking, so I did my best. And Rob's coming over really loud and clear. And I'd also like to thank We Roar radio station for simulcasting this podcast on We Roar, and thank April, Rain, and everybody over at We Roar. This is awakeradio.co.uk, and we're back with Rob Sullivan. Hi, Rob.
Hey, Chrissy, how are you?
Wonderful. You ready?
I am. It looks like most of the people that I invited to be interviewed today either decided to sleep in or they didn't think it was a priority. And maybe that's even something we should talk about a little bit. You get these super, super, super advanced beings, people that develop, that have the kind of psychic gifts that, you and I are of the same generation, Chrissy. When we were kids, we remember that show, That's Incredible. You remember that in the 70s?
Yeah.
And then, Fran Tarkenton, and it was so 70s. But they would occasionally have people on, like the yogi guru. I forget what he was, but he could fit himself into a little box and pour acid on his skin, and he could bench press 400 pounds, and he looked like he was a skeleton. And we really don't have shows like that anymore. But here's the issue. You get people that actually have these gifts. They seem a little flaky to the establishment, mainstream way of thinking. They seem new agey, or like they've got a little bit of a screw loose. And they really don't. They just have all of those ADD symptoms of an awakened right brain person that just doesn't mesh in with everybody as well. And unfortunately, they're really difficult to manage. They're so individualistic. It's very hard to get them to agree with you unless they get the insight themselves, and then offering them a chance to call into a radio show to talk about their gifts. Sometimes when it all comes down, are they able to get the job done? They have to be managed in a very tight way. That's something I think I bring to the table too. So by having one foot in establishment reality and being able to speak articulately in terms of really any issue that you want to talk about that you'd see on CNN, and then having one foot in what I call true reality, which is being able to see without a veil in the way, being able to see in higher dimensions. I mean, Chrissy, I'll be honest with you. I'll shoot straight. Ever since my ayahuasca experience last summer at the shamanic Peruvian circle, I don't see the way most people see. I mean, when I look up into the night sky, I see things people don't see. They're not hallucinations, but I'm able to see structures and movements of energy if I focus my eyes a certain way, that some people would say, oh, it's an optical illusion, rub your eyes, you're imagining things, or you damaged your brain with that jungle juice. I'm like, no, actually, I'm one of the smartest, sanest, most analytical people you'll ever meet in your life. And if I'm telling you that I see a hexagonal grid in the sky on a moonless night, and it's very, very faint, and it has a slight violet tinge to it, violet or purplish tinge, I'm telling you, objectively, it's there. And what really blew my mind is that when I got a lot of my recent education through connections on Facebook. Facebook itself doesn't educate you, but the people that you have access to through social media, if you handle yourself diplomatically, you can talk to the top experts in the world about anything. So I got connected to a couple people. I'm not going to call them friends. It's just I'm real big fans of their content. Jordan David of Spirit Science. Spirit Science. I mean, just Google it or go to YouTube and type in Spirit Science. And they have an animated series, hours and hours of the most amazing animated. They're perfect for kids, perfect for adults. Animated edutainment about the true history of Earth, what's been suppressed, what existed before the flood, Atlantis. But you know, it's not there to titillate you. They're actually giving you actionable information on how to leverage your natural talents as an energy being. It's a lot of hidden knowledge that really only the highest levels of Masonic lodges kept secret. I mean, but apocalypse means revealing, so everything that you had to spend your entire life going through steps and steps and steps of initiation for so-called esoteric or so-called occult knowledge, it's available to anybody now. Now, here's the catch. You're not going to get it on the Discovery Channel. You're not going to get it on the History Channel. As edgy as the History Channel is with Ancient Aliens, they do not even scratch the very top piece of ice on the very tippy top of the iceberg, and we all know that 90%
Well,
of
we had this conversation before. We're not even going to talk about mainstream media because you know, anybody still listening to that for information probably hasn't woken up yet.
Well, I agree with you, but let's say that you've got listeners today. Let's say that you've got a couple hundred new listeners today because of the promotional campaign. You might be getting people that come home from work and they unwind with the news on the TV. And the point of the matter is, rather than judge them, let's be diplomats. Let's let them know that there's some stuff online that they have got to check out. So I'm going off on wild tangents. Why don't you ask?
No, and I want to say thank you to Rob too, because Rob heavily promoted this show this morning and used his own funds to do so. So I just want to give him kudos for that and thank him. And everybody's commenting on the increase in listenership. So thank you all for listening, and thank you, Rob, for what do you call it? Monster promoting. What did you call it?
I'm a rainmaker. My background is in guerrilla marketing of financial services. Mm-hmm. It's very, very difficult to guerrilla market financial services because the SEC and FINRA have such tight controls over your First Amendment communication rights when you're licensed. So I really, really, really had to learn how to split hairs, and I really had to learn how to work around in very nonlinear ways to get my message across. And now that the chains are off, I mean, I can really promote anything. If you've got to listen, I'm not trying to promote myself as a marketing consultant here, but I am the CEO of ArtisanWealthGroup, and I am a consultant. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm not going to promote myself to you, but if you want to reach out to me and you want to increase, your marketing reach, your listenership. If not you specifically, Chrissy, because for you it's pro bono energy exchange. I mean, we're helping each other here. But if any of your listeners want to quadruple their revenue within a 9-month period, I can show anybody how to quadruple their business revenue within 9 months. As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine, a client of mine from a few years ago, who I sold an annuity to, I just really connected with her on a heart level. She didn't have a lot of money. She was married to a retired engineer, and this engineer made really good money when he was working, but that's only because they knew how to manage him. He was a very high-level autistic, and he was in his 50s, and she fell in love with him. She was much, much younger, and they practically were living out of a trailer, not an ugly, beat-up trailer, but their home was a trailer, mm-hmm. And they were making copper jewelry. And because they knew how to use Etsy, and they knew how to use a couple online services to sell their jewelry, and they were making about $60,000 a year working out of their trailer, making jewelry. and they said, do you have any ideas? They said, we're working around the clock. Every member of the family is actually manufacturing with their hands for hours a day. We'd really like to just take our foot off the brake a little bit. So I looked at their business model. I gave her really only 3 or 4 things that she needed to do. Now, most people don't take advice. I was so honored. I was so honored that she actually took my advice. Because have you ever heard the term, Chrissy, ask hole? A-S-K-H-O-L-E. An ask hole is someone that asks your advice and then they go right back into their fluoridated, comatose zombie existence and then don't take the advice.
Well, there's a question in the chat room, and Phantasma wants to know if you have any free consulting packages.
What I'll do is, if you friend me on Facebook and you're respectful of my time and you're not an asshole who's just trying to suck me for information and isn't going to implement it, then I'd say don't bother me. But if you want to synergistically work together and you've already got predictable revenue and there's a way that we can share in some way, in a way that's mutually and voluntarily agreeable, yeah, I'll work. If you want to use the word free, you can say that. If you want to say pro bono, yeah, if I have time. There's got to be something in it for me. But to answer your question, I don't necessarily have to charge you if it's going to be a win-win.
Wow, that's interesting. So, I forget where we were at when we left off, but
Me too. You know what I would do? Well, this is what I'd like to do. Let the people that are actually listening in ask questions, because the super kid that I invited on this morning. Let me try him. Can I?
Go ahead. You want to do that, and I can tell everybody with headphones on to watch their ears while we try to set up a little conversation here. And everybody be aware that the volume levels are going to be lowered as best I can, but it doesn't seem to reset. So let me turn my mic off for a second and see if I can reconfigure.
I just texted you, Chrissy, through Skype, the name of my 17-year-old super psychic friend, Caleb.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can see his Skype name there, please add him. I chastised him a little bit for sleeping in and missing it, but let's give him a second chance. He's just a teenager. I'm a little hard on him, but the fact of the matter is, look, you got a 17-year-old that can levitate himself 6 feet off the ground, leave his body at will, and explore hyperspace. I call that an X-Man, gift. And there's no Dr. Xavier in a wheelchair training the Calebs, so I'm trying to kind of be like a big brother and be a mentor. But the fact of the matter is, he's much more powerful in his psychic gifts than me. And
is his name Dimitri? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. I wanted to stick with just his first name. Are we still in the air?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh well. Now everyone knows his full name. But what are you going to do about it, huh?
No. Well, we didn't say.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, but his name's Caleb, and let's bring him on if we can. Can you bring him into the call and call him in?
Mm-hmm. I just friended him.
Oh, but through Skype, can you bring him into this call?
I have to be friends with him.
Okay. So I'm gonna add him on here.
Yeah, I'm waiting for him to respond. But anyway, I turned my volumes back down in case we were going to go off the air, but I just tried to reset it. I don't know. The levels are really low, but I can hear it if I turn it up, so maybe there's still hope.
I'm trying to find him. I'm trying to find. Hey, listen, Caleb Dimitri, if you're listening, would you please tell me yes or no via Facebook messaging whether or not you even have a Skype account, buddy? I coached him for like 40 minutes last night on how I wanted to bring him into this call, and
that happens too. And if people have never been interviewed, I mean, I did it myself. I was on the Vinnie Eastwood show, and I only got in the last half hour because I passed out. And I woke up, and it was like, oh my God, I'm too late. I'm thinking all this crazy stuff, and then I finally went on. And I had a half-hour conversation with Vinnie Eastwood, and I was like, awesome. I was like, wow. And not many people know who that is, but he's like the #1 online radio host in New Zealand. He's probably the only one there doing what he does. And he goes around with a loudspeaker and he yells at people to wake up. But he does more than that. He just really tries to promote truth, and he will interview anybody. He'll give anybody a voice, and he's willing to listen to whatever anybody has to say because he thinks the conversation needs to be increased. And I love his program. I love what he does, and I'm hoping maybe I can get him to come on too, because he's just a wonderful individual, and I just love what he's doing. But that's another story. If we can't get your little friend, that's quite all right. We can he said okay, and it's like, okay.
Try to get him on. I don't want to frazzle his nerves. Like a lot of very gifted teenagers that are indigo crystals.
Okay, well, how about we do this? How about if I tell everybody, I did turn the volume down. I'm going to put on a pod, and I just want everybody's ears to be, what do you call it? I don't want anybody to be suffering. So here, we'll put the Temptations on, because I can't. Hello.
Freedom.
Welcome back to Alchemical
Law.
Connections, and this is Chrissy McMahon.
Education. Free energy. Money.
And we have Rob
Debt.
Sullivan and his friend, who's going to go ahead, Rob.
Well, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's in the alternative press right now about the
Awake
so-called
Radio.
indigo kids and the
Deconstructing the dream
so-called
world.
crystal kids.
One lie at a time.
You know,
You didn't
when you're
think it was
living in
gonna be that easy,
three-dimensional
did you?
space-time and you've got to put things into English and hang
You know,
labels on them,
for a second
you've got
there-
to speak within a certain paradigm. But from what I've experienced,
I kind of did.
when I've actually run across young people like this, and I think I was one of them myself, and I am. I might have been maybe one of the first wave that came in, 1968. Caleb was born 17 years ago, and he doesn't go to school. He doesn't need to. He basically teaches himself what he wants to learn. I cannot overemphasize how interesting his story is, and there are stories like this all over the world. Okay, so Caleb's a buddy of mine. We met through Facebook. He was 16 when we met last year, and he was making comments on postings that I was making. I was making postings on sacred geometry, because right now, my personal obsession is sacred geometry and applied sacred geometrics, and it's basically using the flower of life to hack and engineer reality. And Caleb was, he always commented on my posts, and then we got this little dialogue going, and then I was like, oh God, this is like another kind of, nerdy teenager that wants to, waste my time. And then once I started talking to him, I'm like, oh my God, namaste. I got to get to know this guy. Oh, this, and then the more I heard about his story. So Caleb, I almost don't even know how to introduce you. Could you just tell us a little bit about, your experiences with, receiving information and investigating information that, let's just say, is non-local. In other words, information that you're not getting from Google, information that you wouldn't get from the library, information that you actually slightly leave your body a little bit to pull in. Can you tell us how that works?
Yes, I can. The best way I can do that is to sort of describe an experience I had.
That's great.
I was sitting in a car with a friend of mine listening to some music, and I put my hand on the door, and I was noticing the vibrations that are in the door, and that caught my focus and my attention, and that my focus grew and grew and grew to the point where I sort of like blanked out. And then when I came to, what I was seeing was the sound wave, and I saw it expanding, and then another one forming inside of that, and then another, and then it expanding, and
So let me ask you, Caleb, when you said that you were seeing it, I mean, could you describe visually? Was it like a high definition special effect? And then were you seeing it with your physical eyes, or were you kind of seeing it in your head? And then a backup question that a lot of very 3D oriented establishment thinking people want to know is, were you imagining something, or were you actually seeing like something objective as an observer inside your own head? Can you describe what it would feel like to somebody?
it would feel like almost losing a body.
And what does it?
And like what you're seeing sort of becomes your body.
So you're becoming one with what's observed.
Yes.
Okay. Now just pretend that you're telling like a friend from town how that works, and listen. Don't try to make sense. Just start talking. Just start talking about what it's like as if you're doing it now and you're just describing it.
I also have been able to, at will, induce some of these experiences. And how I would do that is through visualization and certain exercises. I can talk about the visualizations easier than the exercises. The first thing I visualized to get me into sort of the mind state that is conducive for that is sort of like a Stargate tunnel, and flying through it, and it has twists and turns in it.
Okay, so let me just articulate for those listening. If you've ever seen a sci-fi film where someone's going into a wormhole, like either in 2001: A Space Odyssey toward the end, or Stargate, like Atlantis Stargate, where the ship goes into kind of a tunnel, it's black, and then it's pulling by you and turning. There was also a scene from Jodie Foster's film Contact. And you're basically saying that you use that to visualize, but the visualization itself actually creates a reality that you become pulled into.
Yes.
Okay. And then once you're there, people would say to you, oh, the kid's got a very strong imagination. Maybe he even has a neurochemical imbalance, making him think that his imagination's reality. What would you say to that? What are you able to objectively observe in that dimension that can be corroborated outside of that dimension by someone that's like, are you able to prove that you can examine something, get information, come back with the information that you normally shouldn't have been able to get by simply visualizing something?
Through these willfully induced experiences that I've had, I am able to get a lot more out of any observation I might make. Say I'm watching a butterfly or I'm watching a bird, and one of those experiences kicks in, I will see something about the bird that isn't apparently that isn't upfront noticeable.
Could you give us an example?
Once I was watching ants, and as I was watching them, I sort of stopped seeing them but started to see as the ant, and it looked as if everything was kind of this yellow tint, and sort of the way I was perceiving it was like the ants were like a collective mind, and everywhere everywhere they were on their trails, they could see, but they couldn't see outside of their trails.
So you're experiencing the collective consciousness of the ant colony, and you were observing that your consciousness was limited to only the paths on the trails.
Yes.
And what about the water droplet spinning experience?
I had an experience in which I saw a vortex of energy forming out of sort of what's called a void. Tesla talked about the ether. The void is basically what would happen if all the movement within the ether stopped. And what I saw was like form coming out of the ether. So anyways, the water droplet begins to spin, and as it spins, when the spinning becomes too much for that droplet form, it changes into a toroidal form, and as a toroidal form, it also produces a vortex, and that vortex produces two areas of different pressures, and that produces an inverse field around this first field, and that it keeps creating inverse fields outward, and that's what I consider vibration. And
so Caleb, let me just, I don't mean to interrupt your train of thought. I just want to do a little bit of translation because I understand what you're talking about, but not everyone does. So what Caleb's done is he's done kind of like when Einstein tried to explain how he came up with relativity, he talked about an elevator moving at the speed of light. And Caleb is using a different visualization. He's using a visualization of a droplet of water suspended in zero gravity that begins to spin. And what Caleb is attempting to describe here is that he is visualizing a highly complex toroidal field, and he's also able to measure and quantify an area of physics that really isn't taught even at the graduate level. And Caleb, could you just take a slight side tangent and talk about some of the people that are involved in Tesla research that are just now rediscovering the energy field structures that you're able to investigate simply through meditation? I mean, there's, do you know the names of any of the researchers that are getting a lot of Facebook hits in the same type of toroidal physics?
There's Larry Woods, who is currently working on building a electric generator that works through magnetic interactions to produce motion, which induces power into his coils. And his coils are like rodent coils. And what Marco Rodin did was he discovered a coil design that works with the toroidal forms and strengthens them.
And
Okay,
mathematics. And just let me ask, this is so interesting, and people are like really open to what Caleb is saying. I'd like to know how this affects you, Caleb, and basically how you perceive this this visualization or this ability that you have came to you. So maybe I wasn't clear about how that all started. So did you want to answer those two questions?
Well, Caleb, would that have anything to do with one of your meditation mentors who taught you pranic nostril breathing, and then you discovered you could do this easier?
Yes, it would have a little bit to do with that. Truthfully, the first experience I had started before I learned anything from him.
Okay.
A friend of my dad's was talking about the Orion Nebula, and I kind of blanked out and saw like the nebula, but the weird thing was it looked like it had sort of like steps in a cloud. And I never really was able to make any sense of that one.
Okay.
And how does it make you feel having this kind of experiences and being able to bring them on for yourself?
Well, it makes me want to do things, but also probably because of my age, I'm so impatient that my impatience sort of self-sabotages me.
Oh, believe me, Caleb, when you're 45, your impatience will sabotage you as well. But remember this, my friend, you know, Alexander conquered most of the world by the time he was your age, and really it just takes teamwork and discipline and coachability, and I'm there for you, buddy. Now, Chrissy, what I'd like to ask you is that I have another friend that's like Caleb but has a different set of abilities. His name is Michael Carmen, and I'm just wondering if you've got him added to Skype yet, because I'd like to bring on Michael and ask him a couple questions.
Well, you're just way too ahead of me, and I'm just so fascinated by Caleb. We're going to have to wait till Michael responds.
Okay,
But,
so we're waiting for Michael Carmen to respond.
Yeah, we'll go back to Caleb, and let's just find out. Is Caleb the person who has the visualizations of the Tesla, or is that another individual?
Yes. Caleb, I'll let Caleb speak for himself, but just to summarize quickly, since he has a different speaking style than I do, Caleb is able to come up with Nikolai Tesla designs, and I'm talking about the advanced designs that the government seized. Caleb feels that he's discovering them, but he's downloading them directly from this group mind that Tesla is a part of. Caleb, could you describe what you see when you investigate like a Tesla engine? Are you still with us, buddy? I think maybe Caleb might have stepped off.
No, he is here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, now we can. Now we can.
Okay. One of the things I've investigated that Nikola Tesla talked about was his radiant energy receiver. And basically how it works is he has one metal plate in the ground and one metal plate suspended in the air, and he has a capacitor in between those two metal plates. He also has a rod connecting the plates to the capacitors, or some sort of conductant material. And what he's doing by that is sort of putting a outlet into the earth and collecting the energy that, or collecting some of the energy that the earth is picking up through its ionosphere and different parts that come into contact with the sun's light and radiation.
Interesting. I'm very much interested in alternative energy and a lot of the Tesla technology that's been suppressed. And I'm just so grateful that you gentlemen have come on here, and you're actually helping to push my paradigm in that direction, because that's basically what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to increase that conversation, connect people, and really get this stuff produced. I don't think there's any reason why it should be limited. Caleb, do you have any insight into how we can make this technology more available? Or maybe I'm not articulating that properly, but can you put that into better words, what we can do to move this forward?
Well, I believe the most important thing in doing that is teamwork.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're trying to raise the financing right now to get a couple of guys who we consider to be leaders in the Tesla tech field. I got to tell you what the embarrassing part of this is, Chrissy. It takes so little money to get these guys funded. They really just have to be able to buy. They have to be able to buy high quality copper. They have to be able to buy high quality magnets, just enough equipment to do high quality machining. But you do not need the Northrop Grumman, engineering team on a huge, aircraft, hangar floor with PhDs and master's degrees to get this done. I mean, you just need 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand. But the problem is, you'd think that I could raise that in no time through my Wall Street network. You can't, because this all comes back to consciousness. When people are resonating within a certain belief system, to them, it sounds like you're asking them to literally burn $50,000, as fuel. To them, it makes no sense. So these guys have to self-finance. I have to support them out of pocket. But, in order to get a chunk of change to actually develop an engine that will power a house. When I say house, I'm really talking like a mansion or a small apartment building for 350 years before it wears out. So free energy, 350 years of free energy out of one device. That's the kind of thing that we're trying to get funded.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that we have Michael with us now, and we also have a statement from the chat room. We have an individual who's a host at our show named Shaziz, and he actually has a workshop where he's creating all kinds of things, sort of on the level of what Caleb's talking about. He's creating light balls and just seeing all kinds of interesting stuff with his experiments. So it would be interesting to get all you guys together with Shaziz and have a conversation and see, how we can't even push the envelope even further. So if Caleb wants to continue to share or not, we can have Michael come in and introduce himself and maybe have the two gentlemen, speaking to each other.
Actually, Chrissy, if you don't mind, I'd like to introduce Michael.
Okay.
And I'd like to tell you a little bit about what makes Michael special.
Absolutely.
Just to summarize, okay, Michael is a young musician. He's got a phenomenal presence, a phenomenal personality, and as far as I'm concerned, he's a musical genius. He bases his music in sacred geometry, and there is no sound that I have ever heard any band produce like their band produces. They almost remind me of early Boston, in the 70s when the guitarist who went to MIT was able to create a whole new, synthesized sound with his guitar. Michael's amazing. But what's even more interesting about Michael, other than the fact as far as I'm concerned, Michael and Caleb are angels in the flesh. They're incarnations of higher beings. Michael is able to get a very specific type of download, revelatory download into his mind. And then what he does is he does automatic drawing. The drawing that he makes is super, super surreal. But every line, every angle in the drawing has an encoded meaning, and only he can unravel it once the drawing is done. So, Michael, are you with us right now? I can't hear him, Chrissy.
Well, he didn't say anything. Rob, give him a minute.
Okay. I thought he was on with us. Maybe
He
has
is
his...
on.
Okay.
Michael, you ready? And I want to say thank you to Caleb too, because
Yeah, thanks, Caleb.
I don't want you to leave. I just really wanted to thank you for the interesting comments that you made, and it's really lighting up the chat. People are just throwing out all kinds of links and sites and people. It's awesome. Michael, are you there? Okay. Do you have your microphone on? Is it on mute? Okay, we're going to give Michael a few more minutes, and we're coming to the top of the hour again, and I was just informed that since there's nobody behind me for the next 2 hours, I really can't go 2 more hours, but maybe another hour if you gentlemen would like to continue. We can have another station break at the top of the hour.
Hello?
And
Can you
hi,
hear me?
Mike. Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Welcome.
Hey, Mike, how you feeling, buddy?
Feeling pretty great. I just woke up a little while ago and started listening to the show. It was like my first priority. Started listening to the show. I haven't even gotten dressed for work or anything. But hi, my name is Michael. Rob gave you a little bit of backstory on me. I'll give you my own little backstory into what I've been looking into, which kind of is the reason why I even am the way I am. So I've been looking into free energy, sacred geometry, quantum physics, alchemy, like the Hermetic philosophy, not the turning other elements into gold. It's really confusing because if I try to talk to anyone about alchemy, they immediately think like I'm trying to synthesize gold, but it's more of just like the transmutation of myself. Or, you know, there's a lot of people in this circle who understand alchemy from that perspective. But to go on, I've been looking into kind of different readings of people's interactions with higher dimensional beings. I've looked into occult symbolism, heavily interested in meditation and physical health. But I only say those things because they all share like a common ground in spirituality and expanding your consciousness, because those are the subjects that I think do it the best. But I've been expanding my comprehension on these subjects for about a full year now, and I admit I have a lot to learn about them. But the point in mentioning is it's personal information. It will connect some dots between some of the aforementioned topics. One of the main pieces of information that I really can't seem to escape is that there are these toroidal-shaped magnetic fields that pretty much explain and encompass almost every aspect of energy and existence, like Caleb was talking about, because they both can be extrapolated to account for like every number synchronicity, planetary, celestial movements, thought patterns, relationships, and can pretty much be extrapolated to understand the workings of most, if not all, fundamental things. And seeing the truth of this wasn't really something that I struggled with, because like Caleb, I have my own type of visions or whatnot. I can visualize to the same degree of sorts. And when you look at the claims that are kind of being made about myself and Caleb, if you look at them through open eyes, it's not really that audacious, because we're kind of headed towards that critical mass of consciousness. Chrissy, have you ever heard of the 100 monkey effect?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's probably the perfect analogy to why kids like me and Caleb are having the types of expansive experiences that lead us to these radio shows, like right now, talking about it. And it's really because of the critical mass thing. It's getting to that point. And so we're all learning how to wash our potatoes in the water.
Wonderful perspective. I love it. And I love that you're very humble about how you perceive your own talent. And it is a gift. And although they say that we all have the same gifts and we're all capable of the same achievements, I just think it's fascinating that some of us are so limited, and I believe it's because of our thinking. So thank you for even mentioning that. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Chrissy, one thing that I think, folks our age would appreciate is that, we come from a school system that's so highly geared toward control and indoctrination, and then you get the peer pressure, and then you get the constant barrage of misinformation through television. And I was just like Caleb and Michael, but not when I was their age in their late teens. I was like that as a little kid, as a toddler. I mean, I was able to come out of my body and explore the house at night. I thought I was sleepwalking, but I never left my bed, and everything looked kind of bluish, purplish, pixelated. And then I remembered that if I went into another room of the house and then went to sleep on the floor, I'd end up back in my bed in my body. But the thing is, it's the fluoride, it's the programming, and then you hit middle age, and then unless you trigger an awakening the way I willfully triggered my awakening, you just don't get to the level that Caleb and Michael are at. I'm actually playing catch up with these guys right now. Every day I discover a new talent or a new gift. But these guys just, they're fluent with it. I mean, the way that Michael is able to do automatic, surrealistic, encoded drawings, it's just amazing. It's amazing. Michael, if you don't mind, I hope I'm not embarrassing you. Could you just explain?
Oh, no.
Could you explain your process when you're doing one of your surreal drawings?
Sure. Well, it goes through a couple different steps as I'm trying to kind of get the entire feel for the picture. So the first one is I had a little note card here that kind of explained that really well. Can't seem to locate it, but it's okay because I remember well enough. So the first one is it starts out with like the flower of life, because I don't know how many people are listening that are aware of mine and Rob's connection through Applied Sacred Geometrics on Facebook, the group. If you're interested in sacred geometry, you should really try to get added to that group as soon as possible, because there's a lot of really good information being posted there. But I start out with the flower of life, just like a basic 6-petaled star thing. And from there, it starts to go into like a random geometry, but as you all know, nothing's really random. And I'm trying to stay as conscious of that as possible while my hand's drifting to these very synchronous angles. And as it goes, I start to dive into the photo a little more, and I start to develop a kinesthetic feeling between the nerves in my hand and the nerves in my brain. Like I'm consciously aware of the neural connection. And the more I focus on it, the more the connection starts to drive up my arm from my hands, from the vibrations of the pencil on the paper. I start to become hyper aware of it all the way up my arm. And eventually the vibration reaches up into my neck, and it starts to feel like I'm drawing on my neck, like the paper is me. So like Caleb said, I'm going to quote him from a past article or note that he wrote, where you have to become the moment. You don't live in the moment, you become the moment. Mm-hmm. And the more I become the moment, the more the paper and me become one thing, and it pretty much becomes like a blank slate for form. So all the random geometries that are cascading out of the flower of life, or if I choose to simplify the flower of life into a set of 6 lines, where each line is symbolic for one petal, because it's the same thing, same concept. It's like a grid. If I do that, it turns out just the same, and all the random geometry cascades out of those petals and into what I call the realm of form, where I start to shade those geometries after a certain point that is reached, where my hand unconsciously starts to draw into a spiral. And as my hand draws into a spiral, I visualize that same toroidal field opening and letting unconscious information become conscious. And as I do that, the contrast that I start to shade into existence become a recognizable story. And the recognizable story becomes decodable. And it's not really only decodable by me, Rob. It's decodable by anyone's perception after they've reached a certain level of being able to project themselves onto anything. Like, when we talk to each other, we project each other onto each other through our own personalities. And so we see a lot of the characteristics that we actually exude in other people, and we like that, or we dislike it. And it'll pretty much judge, or not judge, it'll determine our subsequent actions after the projection. And it's the same with the picture. The subsequent interpretation of the picture is based on the projections of my perceptions onto the picture. Like, what have I learned in my entire experience so far? I mean, it's only been 20 years, 2 months ago, so it's not a lot, but there's been a lot of apocalypses, so to say. And
yeah. Mike, can I just jump in just for a quick second?
Does he have a website with his pictures? Is there somewhere we can look for this?
I just uploaded a bunch of new ones to a Facebook page I started yesterday called Observicus Vibraticum. It's Observicus, like it sounds Latin. It's just 2 Latin words that I made up during a meditation. To me, it means observe the vibrations, and it helps me use it as a mantra as I'm drawing.
Wow. Can you spell that so I can put it on the chat?
Yes. Here you go. I'll type it out into this.
Michael, could I also make a suggestion?
Sure.
Since Applied Sacred Geometrics already has hundreds of members and it's easier to spell, how about we do a week-long promotion on you and give them the Applied Sacred Geometrics, and then we'll direct them all to your new page.
That works too?
Yeah, let's do that. That way we can aggregate the interest and we can keep track of how many people like us we're going to be meeting through this.
Sounds great.
All right. So the name of the Facebook group is Applied Sacred Geometrics, just the way it sounds. And it's a closed group, so you have to ask to join. And we'll just highlight Michael for the rest of the month because I've been waiting to do this for a long time. Both Michael and Caleb aren't just channels for interesting information. They're actually central, I believe, to the transition that we're going to go through when we get off the petrodollar, and basically every energy plant in the country will just have to start to shut down. It's these guys that are going to be putting the new technology together. Now, we've got engineers, we've got mechanics, and we've got super kids like Caleb and Michael all working on projects right now to do that. This is big. We're not dabblers, and I didn't come off of selling on Wall Street to dabble. I came in to be a part of this.
Okay, well, with that, I'm going to ask you guys to take a little, maybe 5-10 minute break, and you can collect your thoughts, and then we'll all come back. Nobody has to hang up or anything.
Okay.
But, we'll be right back.
Okay, hey guys, we're back. This is Rob Sullivan, and I am on air with Caleb Dimitri and Michael Harrison Carmen. These guys are so cool. They're individuals, but if you had to take some stupid new age terminology for what these guys are, I guess they would fall under the indigo or crystal label, but that's really BS because it's really just a fractal awakening of the young people, and they've got really, they're tapping into superpowers. And what we're talking about right now is how Caleb and Michael are seeing the same visualizations of toroidal energy fields as being central to doing. Combining that with sacred geometry, you're basically become a reality hacker. And we're talking about recreating the Coral Castle flywheel. Could we start off with you, Michael? For those of our listeners that might not know too much about the Coral Castle in Florida and how it was built by a single man who only weighed 105 pounds, could you give us some background on that and then talk a little bit about how they're trying to recreate that technology?
Yeah. Thanks for giving me the opportunity, by the way, Chrissy and Rob.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ed Leedskalnin, I think that's how you say his last name. I've never been 100% sure.
Leedskalnin or something?
Leedskalnin?
I've always heard it pronounced Edward Leedskalnin.
Okay.
Edward Leedskalnin.
Well, you guys are the Supermen, so we'll go with what you say.
I don't need that kind of pressure, okay, Chrissy?
No,
I'm just kidding. Okay, so Ed built a machine, and he was investigated thoroughly, and no one could really figure it out. But there's no official story given either. So I do know that you could find the largest repository of information being freely passed around by Jack Robert Emery. He loves Ed more than anyone else, and that's a fact. But so Ed built a machine, and it consists of a flywheel that has a set of magnets in it, and we're starting to see this technology being built all over again. So it's awesome. But the magnets are set up in a geometrical way to where they produce, when the flywheel is turned, it produces a harnessing of it. It's pretty much built into the fabric of the universe. Not only is it a physical device, but it's attached to the wheelworks of natures, as someone once put that. And it produces effectively like infinite energy because of the nature of magnets, and like our planets are also magnets. We are magnets in a very subtle way that we don't consciously acknowledge it every day. But he built this machine, and using it, he carved out 10-ton stones, or he moved 10-ton stones and created a compound that he called Rock Gate Park. And he wanted it to be kind of all synchronistically left in a way to where people would be able to do it themselves. And Jack Robert Emery could tell you all about this as well, way better than I could, because he's been compiling information on Ed for what, I don't even know, maybe his whole life. But he carved out all these stones, and he also moved locations, and he moved all the rocks by himself. So that in and of itself speaks volumes as to what he's created. And it also, I mean, they called him the Jesus of Malibu. It's really like no contest between this guy and the physicists at CERN and, you know, the physicists at Harvard and MIT. These guys are doing completely two different things. One of them is actually applying something intuitive, something out of this world, out of the realms of what we think is possible for the most part for one person to do by themselves. I mean, he proclaimed that he discovered the secrets of the ancient Egyptian pyramid builders, and it's obvious that he did, because just if you go and look at Coral Castle, it's a structure that is just ultimately mind-blowing because of how impossible it would be
for one
to
person.
Create.
Yeah. And also, you know, you realize he moved it.
Yes, he moved it
from one location to another
by himself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of people who will go to as far length as they can to try to make up a ridiculous story on how it's moved, but the bottom line is it was done by him, solely by him, through the use of some technology that he developed himself or had help from the higher aspects of himself, or just family that isn't local, like a non-local information circuit. And through doing all these things, he's created the conversation for today. He's created the study of one man's life. He's created intense revelations of knowledge when you apply sacred geometry to his work, because then you start to realize that the magnets adhere to geometrical laws, and planets are magnets that are adhering to geometrical laws inside a giant, an even bigger matrix of geometry. And the further you go up, the more intense all the information gets because of how dense it is. And this man traveled through those densities to bring this into existence in 3D. And it evades a lot of people's 3D comprehension, and it'll probably just get written off as soon as I'm finished saying it to those who can't really get the importance of it.
Well, Michael, that's why I wanted to jump in, because I'm a pretty good translator, and if I could just give a couple sound bites for people listening to bring what you're saying down to earth. What Michael is saying is that the toroidal energy field, the dynamics of magnetism, and basically nature's artwork, sacred geometry, which is like the DNA of nature, art, music, everything, is all combined with consciousness.
Yes.
So it is the consciousness and the feelings and the subjective human experience itself is actually not just a force of nature, but it is the substrate, the foundation of nature, so that everything is conscious. So that if you see a pineapple or a sunflower or a galaxy or a tornado, and you look at the spiral helix of DNA and the structure of language, it's all connected, not just in physics and in matter and in energy, because really, the fall of man and the lowering of the human being's consciousness upon this planet was done by separating things and creating barriers and blindnesses.
Duality.
So we're taught that art and physics are two different things. They're not two different things, and if physics doesn't feel like art to you, you are studying basically the incorrect form of physics. If it's not beautiful, if it's not colorful, if it's not geometric, if it is not sacred geometric, if it is not musical, it's not real. And nothing that is unreal exists. And basically, here's I'd like to take this to the nth degree. If Michael and Caleb and I can come up with a next level formula or algorithm, not just for the perfect free energy device or the perfect levitation device or the perfect Stargate, but if we were able to come up with the perfect visualization contemplated in leveraged meditation, we can create things out of scratch. We can create and manifest objects, fields, and realities from a group mind. Now, is that magic? Is that black magic? Is there a devil or a demon or an angel helping or assisting? Actually, we're the demons, we're the angels.
May I jump in here?
Yes,
Sorry.
Caleb.
We are currently living in a reality exactly like you're describing.
Right. Go ahead. I'm listening.
I have put some thought into the nature of, I guess some say realities and things like that. Anyways, I believe Michael Talbot, the author of Holographic Universe, talks about the mind and the universe both being a hologram.
Absolutely.
And I would like to venture and say they are the same hologram.
Oh, sure.
I like that idea, yeah.
I mean,
And
I've had a subjective, like kinesthetic psychic experience where for a moment I realized that everything around me, and this didn't happen at the ayahuasca ceremony, this happens once a day now, where I'm beginning to experience what you guys are talking about, where I'm viewing something. Well, actually, a mutual friend of ours, Michael Rodriguez, was here visiting me up at my Pocono house. And this is the cloud busting shaman that I had talked about in my ad. But Michael created a ball of energy between his hands that he had pulled down from the sky, amplified it between his hands, and then he placed it over me. And I got to tell you, man, the energy was so vibratory and so heavy. I felt like I was wearing a Michelin Man suit. I felt like I was wearing a big rubber Michelin Man suit full of jelly because I was constantly off balance. If I didn't walk with my my posture perfect, I was like off balance. I almost fell over. And then he said, move the energy into the center of your head, see with your pineal, and look at that mountain in the distance and project yourself to the mountain. Now, I had never been able to do this on my own, but with Michael there amplifying it for me. And by the way, I love Michael Rodriguez. We had a little argument recently, but I love you, man. I hope you're listening. I did it, and I couldn't believe it. It was like something out of a Disney movie. I was the mountain in the distance. I could feel it. I could feel the trees. And then I directed my attention toward the tree in my front yard, and I could taste the bark. And
that's incredible.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, there is like no difference between this and that. You and me, we're all the same thing. And we're able to manifest this technology. We're able to manifest instrumentation out of thin air if we can just put our heads together.
One of the comments just made me laugh. Someone gave me some energy that this guy was talking about.
Yeah, we all want that Powerball.
I mean, you can learn
I just like what Caleb was saying about he believes everything is the hologram. So where does the hologram come from? And where's being projected from? Within us, within our minds, or
in the Kabbalion, it says by the three initiates, it says that the he who understands the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path of mastery. That really like gave me a lot of insight, because like there is nothing that you can think of, because listen to what I said, that you can think of that is not mental in nature. And so you can give examples of things that appear to be outside of you, but you're thinking of them. You have to think of them in order for you to even give the example. So there's nothing that isn't mental and that isn't within the mind, not your mind, but the mind, that encompasses yours and mine.
I love that, and I think with that said, what can we say from this point forward that we can actually change the paradigm that we're all agreeing to of negativity and lack and war and all this other stuff?
It goes right on into the second axiom, which would be, I think, polarities. And Buddha said it best, to walk the middle path, where you're not seeking out extreme pleasure or extreme pain, because you'll immediately experience the opposite after that. And it's hard to walk the middle path when you're going into extremes. And so it's kind of like, have you read the Tao?
I read the Tao of Pooh.
It's same concept. I mean, do without doing. Like, don't really
non-attachment.
Don't be consciously involved with your emotions to the point that you're allowing them to swing, because you need to understand that it's like a pendulum. Like, it's always going to go back unless you know how the law works. You can stay neutralized. You can. That's how the alchemists did it. Way back when these laws were being revealed to them through the emerald tablets of Thoth, who delivered writing and a lot of other things to ancient Egypt or wherever the original following of him were gathering, the mystery schools and whatnot.
Hey,
But
Michael, can I jump in for 1 second just for the listeners and let them
go
know
for it.
that if they go to Spirit Science on YouTube or they go to Drunvalo Melchizedek on YouTube, they're
That's
going to get
DRUNVALOMELCHIZEDEK.
right, because a lot of people are thinking, this sounds amazing, I'm never going to remember what they're talking about. The thing is, someone could get almost a full background education in this just from a few hours on YouTube. Is that correct?
I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, I did it the hard way with my face in a tree, but
I'd like to jump in and share sort of like an analogy that I've used recently to describe how I see matter. Let's say we have a river and you mark a square section of that river. You have a riverbank, you have the water flowing through your section. Let's call that section Bob. The water will flow through Bob, but if the water's not there, or if the water stops flowing, Bob ceases to be.
but the water's still there.
I'm saying, like, if the water stops flowing, Bob would cease to be. The water flows through this section, and as long as the water flows through this section, it exists. This section exists in form. This is literally the nature of form.
Yeah, but the water would actually be just the energy that exists.
Yes,
yeah,
and
at every point.
That there's also sort of a bank in like sort of, there is something that I'm referring to in this analogy. The bank represents something, so does the river flowing through it, and so does that section I was putting there. The section is form, the river is energy, and the bank is sort of the energy boundary, the boundary of that specific system.
That's a great analogy.
I want to jump in for a second and share something, because as you guys know, we have a lot of fractal synchronicities going on between the three of us. And I had Joelle Everfor here for 3 weeks with me and Julia. And she, every single day for 3 weeks, she talked about that. She said that we're in a river, but there's no banks. She said there's nothing to hang on to anymore. There's no way. She was channeling this information. She was saying exactly what Caleb is saying, but she's saying there are no longer any banks.
Without the banks, reality would collapse.
No, that's what she said, Caleb. That's what she's saying. She's saying that we're in a new frequency, and that the river's banks are illusions, and that it's actually good that there are no banks, because she's saying that we need to go all the way off the edge of the waterfall now, and we're not going to be able to find a bank before we go over.
I see what she's saying. I guess we were referring to different things when we were saying bank.
No, but that's what I'm trying to say is, as above, so below. One metaphor is another reality. All of this stuff is facets of the same geometry that we're working here with, Caleb. So the fact that you are using the river and the bank as an analogy for the way that you see energy, Joelle is saying that she sees it as consciousness and karmic life stream. And she's saying that if you think you see a bank, it's not there anymore. And I'm also getting revelatory RDs, revelatory downloads, that the limitations that we think that we're working within in terms of fundraising and actually gathering the materials, parts, and machine, I don't know how to process this perfectly. I'm going to very humbly tell you, it's almost too hard for me to believe. But I'm being shown that we don't need any of that, that we're going to be able to manifest directly.
That's interesting.
Absolutely. Why not? Why not?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no reason to be finite. That's just kind of like an assumption.
Right.
The bank is like our character Bob. That we were
Caleb,
talking about, that
let me
section
clear
of
this
the
up
river.
real fast. Are you using bank like riverbank, or are you using bank like the service?
I'm using it like riverbank.
Me
Okay,
too.
I was just making sure, because when you said
me
you weren't talking about the same things, I was just wanting to clarify that you're not actually talking about like a monetary bank as an analogy.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about boundaries, like visual boundaries.
I knew what you were talking about. I just wasn't sure if Caleb was on that same definition.
So anyway, I'd like to tighten it up a little bit and talk about Michael. Have you participated in a meta circle? I believe you have, right?
Yeah. It was I think it was only the second or third time we had actually spoken.
Right.
And then I wanted to do that, and I did it, and we had a really good session, and there was a lot of crazy energy that I'd never felt before. I was hyper aware of my heartbeats. I was hyper aware of synchronicity. I was hyper aware of things that I'm never hyper aware of.
So, Chrissy, this is what we do. Once in a while, we all connect online at the same time. And it sounds a little bit like a magical ritual, but there's no pentagrams, there's no people in robes, there's no incantations, there's no invocation of spirits. We're all online at the same time. And we're all streaming a visual on screen of sacred geometry animation, and we're all listening to high energy music. Now, we're all hearing it at the same time. There's 12 to 20 people online at the same time doing this. You have to come through a certain group. You have to get through certain filters to be a part of the circle. But we call it meta circle, M-E-T-A circle, because we're not there together. We're there remotely. And we all have the circular grid pattern of the flower of life in front of us during the meditation, and we do a group guided meditation. We are literally able to kinesthetically connect with each other's nervous systems through the flower of life mandala.
It's kind of crazy, actually. Like,
yeah,
it's the most surreal feeling.
We're basically doing what looks like a sci-fi fantasy Hollywood script. Everyone on this group meditation, visualizing the flower of life, hearing the music, we get into resonance with each other. And then Caleb acts as the visual scout, and he goes into hyperspace, and he's able to visualize everyone's energy field as if they're all in the same room.
So
and then
Caleb's a pilot.
Caleb's a pilot, and then I'm the director. And I'm actually guiding people verbally, and sometimes I'll amplify through a very small dose of ayahuasca, just enough to get my DMT level up into my pineal. And then what I do is Caleb is the visual pilot, I'm the kinesthetic pilot, and we work together. And then we all set a group intention. 9 out of 10 times the group intention is a healing of a loved one, because everyone knows someone who's sick or suffering. And then I always overlay an intention, and because I'm a strategist, I'm a tactical strategist, and I'm thinking, okay, if I bring the left brain world of Wall Street strategy into a meditation, what would I like to see happen? So I want to see a geometric amplification of everyone's law of attraction intention, but then I put an economic overlay on it, so everyone not only gets healed, but they get more economic opportunities open up that we work on as a group.
Yes. Somebody had asked a question about when do we start living in this new frequency? And I'm thinking, is it really a new frequency, or is it just the realization?
It's the second you become conscious of it.
Absolutely.
It's like not going to happen without you wanting it to, really.
And if I can jump in and just say, you've got to want it more than anything in the world. I'm not a religious fundamentalist, but I was raised Catholic. And although I'm not religious, there's a lot of very interesting things that Jesus the Guru said. One of the things, Jesus was a guru, Guru Jesus. And one of the things he said is, you have to be willing to sell everything that you own to gain the pearl of great price. What is the pearl of great price? It's knowledge, it's gnosis, it's understanding. As soon as you understand, even if you're not a touchy-feely group hug hippie kind of person who, follows, medicine for the people, it doesn't matter. You could be in a suit commuting to a crap job in a cubicle under a fluorescent light like I did. If you want it more than anything, what you want wants you. It is pure love. It will tackle you. If you look into your heart and you say, I am willing to become godlike, and I am willing to lose everything in order to have that so I can shine and heal the world, you will have angels tackling you and trying to shove it down your throat, and it's going to be overwhelming. If you want to learn more about this, just join our closed group, Applied Sacred Geometrics, on Facebook.
Hey, Rob. I liked what you just said. Thanks for having me, Chrissy. I actually have to get dressed. I have to be at work at 11. It's 10:38 here.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. This is awesome.
I'll be listening to the rest of it later. So,
Awesome.
Namaste, everybody.
Namaste, Michael.
That was awesome. Well, we only have about 20 more minutes, and maybe we'd like to give Caleb a chance to, if you want to explain the banks, or if you want to talk about something else, that would be fine by me, because this is just all fascinating.
So, Caleb, can you tell us personally? I mean, people are going to want to know who you are, and what they're going to want to know about you personally. You're going to be headed to Hawaii soon. What are you going to be doing out in Hawaii, and who is sponsoring you for that?
I'm currently living with a chiropractic doctor from Glendale, California, and she used to be in the Rosicrucian order, and she's, through her experiences, has gained, or through her life experience, has gained knowledge about the evolution of consciousness, about healing, that she is wanting to share. So what she's going to be doing, what we're going to be doing in Hawaii, is putting together videos. She may be working on a book. The intention is to get that information out.
Yes. That's my intention.
And we will be promoting both you and Melody, as well as Chrissy McMahon, through Applied Sacred Geometrics. And Applied Sacred Geometrics is going to become an online channel, and we're going to try to bring it to cable television. So we want to become the portal of apocalypse. We want people to know what they need to know in order to transcend space, time, matter, and energy, and just become manifestors. Chrissy, if we have a little bit more time, there's a guy named Vincent that shares my expertise in neurolinguistic engineering and neurolinguistic programming. I was wondering if he's still with us, if we could bring him into the conversation.
Well, I don't know if he's with us because he's not, in my contacts, but I can send him a message.
I
texted him. He may respond as quickly as the other two.
But if not, I'm sure you and Caleb have plenty to talk about.
Yeah, Caleb.
The person I'm staying with, her name is Melody, and her mom is into kinesiology.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking with her, and she was trying to tell me about these higher frequencies that you were taught, that Ella was talking about. What was something that she actually had mentioned to me. What she said was that life forms create in a higher vibrational state than they currently are, or a higher energy state than they currently are. Say physically we're in a specific state, but our mind is a higher frequency than the physical reality we're in. That's and that creation. I connected there. I connected what she was saying there about the higher frequencies like that with time and specifically the evolution of consciousness.
And this was being with Melody, or
no? This was Melody's mom I was talking to.
Okay. And what's her connection to the metaphysical? Was it just being in her presence?
Has anyone heard of Rex Reason?
No. What is that? Did I lose you, Caleb?
I think we may have lost Caleb.
Well, call him back.
Okay. In the meantime, Christy, is there anything I could answer for you to like pull it all together and into a digestible bowl?
Well, you could stop eating because I can hear you.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I wish you could have just messaged me. I would have hit mute.
I did. You're not paying any attention.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Caleb, are you back, sweetie?
Yes, I'm here. Have any of you heard of Rex Reason?
No.
I have not.
Anyways, he's Melody's stepfather.
Okay.
And he's in a couple movies, has some inspirational audio books published, and he writes some very deep poetry. And if you Google him, he'll show up.
Yeah, I got him. I posted him on the chat.
Anyways, also down there, I've been spending time with Rex Reason and Melody's mom, as I've been saying, and I just find them so cool.
What do you find cool about it, Caleb? Just to tighten it up a little bit.
Rex is extremely deep. He doesn't really speak that much, but when he speaks, he really has meaning and I would say power behind what he says.
And what does he say?
He talks about his experiences when he was younger. That's what he had talked about to me, and we also talked about knowing yourself and sort of who you are. Basically, the kind of conversations that I have with you, Rob, and with Michael, I have almost the same conversations with him.
That's cool. So Chrissy, you can kind of see, that structure is kind of important.
And also we have Vincent here now. Vincent, how are you?
I am awesome. How are you?
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We have Caleb and Rob.
Hey Vince, how you doing, buddy?
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, if I can give you a short intro on Vincent, I found Vincent through LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is the world's biggest professional network, and I'm developing a lot of contacts in different areas there. Vince has a background in both neuro-linguistic programming, Ericksonian hypnosis, and also active duty military. I believe he's retired from that. But Vince, can you tell us what your take and what your angle on consciousness and engineering consciousness is?
Well, one of the things that I've noticed is the thing that holds people back the most is fear. Fear that if they do something, somebody will think that they're bad, or they'll think that they, aren't good, or they'll think that it's like, oh, I don't want to do that because this person's, oh my goodness. But the really interesting thing is most of the things that people are afraid of aren't even real. They're just a huge illusion, just like what everybody was speaking about earlier. If all they were to do were to realize that, they would have boundless amounts of energy available for them to do whatever they would want to do. Now, what I like to do is one of the things I do with my clients is I show them how they can actually remove all unnecessary fear, which is actually all fear. Although I'll just show them how to remove all unnecessary fear so that they can actually experience life to the fullest.
Now, Vincent, people live their lives in a vibration of fear, and they're not even aware of it. And my entire life, I've dealt with anxiety. And when in 2008, when I lost my Wall Street network due to the financial meltdown, and I basically went from, mid six figures to almost nothing, I had daily panic attacks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't until I was able to look fear in the eye and say, I'm willing to physically die rather than give in to you, that anything shifted. Can you speak to the catharsis of facing fear and overcoming it? Like that moment of truth when people really make the decision to win that battle?
Well, when they finally do, and sometimes it takes people a very long time. When I was actually taking my training some years ago, I met a guy, and he wanted to remove all fear from himself. And we were doing all different types of NLP techniques. So there was one, I don't remember exactly which one it was, although he did it, and it's like, from that point on, I mean, I didn't know him very well. He was a ninja, actually. He had actually been training in ninjutsu, and he wanted to remove fear to make himself, better. And I was his roommate for about 14, 15 days, and he actually showed me some of the things that he taught me some ninja skills. Not a whole bunch, mind you. I'm not a ninja, but he did teach me some really cool ninja skills. And from the time that I met him to the time after he removed all of his fear, he totally changed. It's not that he didn't care, it's that when he didn't have the fear, he wasn't held back. So I can't say it's like, he just didn't care about anything anymore. I mean, because he still cared, but he wasn't. He didn't have that. He didn't have a fear holding him back from anything. And the really interesting thing is that I tried to do that, and I wasn't able to get the same result. And so years later, I was able to actually do that and actually remove all the fear. And again, most people, they don't even want to remove the fear because, like you said, they're not even aware that they have it. And if you let people know that they're afraid of something, they'll actually be afraid to get rid of the fear because it's most familiar to them. I mean, one of the things people will literally kill for is familiarity. And actually, that actually has more to do, at least I think so, that it has more to do with the fear of the unknown because they've experienced one way of existing. They don't know what else to experience, and they don't know how to experience. So once you remove all the fear, everything opens up for you. It's just so much easier to experience love and joy. I mean, one of the things that people will notice is that if and when they're able to reduce the fear, like when I deal with a lot of my clients, when I'm able to help them with that, one of the first things that they'll notice is that they start to get a little tired and sleepy because their body had been accustomed to having so much energy generated by them. And the thing is, your body can generate everything that you take into your body. The only reason why they work is because your body's response to it. And your body actually has all types of receptors all over your body in order for that to work. And the reason why you have receptors is because your body can produce all of those wonderful chemicals. And after people are able to release the fear, they actually get all this extra energy back. They're able to relax easier. They're able to accomplish their goals easier because they're able to focus that energy that was in fear. Instead of fear, they're able to use it directly for their goals and various other things.
Now, Vince, can I ask you something that I think the listeners might be interested in?
Okay.
I was able to overcome my fear both through facing it and really recklessly facing it and taking really big risks. And then, again, through my my ceremonial experience with the medicine circle, that really brought me so much knowledge in one night that I just wasn't afraid anymore. But one issue that I've got that I'd like help with, and maybe some people out there do, is, you know, I've never gotten over these ADD symptoms that make me kind of hyper. And I think even our listeners can hear that I've got way too much energy. How do I take it down a notch? How do I get more, you know, like relaxed, focused, and even with the overwhelming energy I now feel?
Well, the very interesting thing is it's not so much that it's panic or anxiety. It's more along the lines that you're extremely excited about things. And I actually get that myself. I probably had ADD when I was younger, and I don't know if I sound like I have a lot of energy right now. Although I guess ironically, through fear, I was able to learn certain techniques to actually help me to relax. Ironically, I mean, it's just funny that way.
Okay, can I ask a question? I have Vincent. I have a gentleman. He wants to know, when we say people are living in a vibration of fear, are we talking about the vibration that has a frequency to suppress some of the amino acids of the genes, and that we would be capable of much more if the frequency was higher one, for example, love? Like you.
Oh, absolutely. I'll let Vince expound on that, but that's a fundamental capital yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about it like this. I was in a situation where I was in a relationship that was not very healthy, and what wound up happening is, it was actually, there was so much anger and sadness. I don't even know why I was in that relationship, although I'm out of it, so, you know, good for me. But once I realized the reason why I was in that relationship, it literally felt like a weight was lifted off of me. Like a 30-pound weight was lifted off of me. I literally felt lighter once I was able to know that I didn't need that relationship any longer. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but the energy that you're using to hold on to the fear that you had is actually energy that could be focused towards love, which would actually enhance so much more of your life. Now, getting back to what Rob was asking, it's not even so much that, I mean, that energy that you're experiencing, it's more about focus. Right now, you probably have it through a lens that's scattering the light everywhere. What you'd want to do is find a way, and I know some things that can help you, find a way to focus that and turn it into a laser-like focus.
Well, here's the thing, Vince. If you don't mind expounding a little bit, and I'm sure a lot of people are interested, I feel love overwhelmingly strong. I feel everything, except for fear, I feel everything amplified. Now, I am incredibly scattered, but when I do focus, it is overly focused. It is like a laser beam, and I literally can't do anything other than that. Is there a happy medium that I can learn through a new skill set? Because neurolinguistically, I haven't been able to hack this one yet.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I would probably have to figure out exactly what you're doing using modeling, figure out exactly what you're doing so that I can figure out the pieces so I can actually shift you towards the middle ground. But yes, there's absolutely a way for you to do that.
Yeah, because I feel that energetically or focus-wise, I'm either, like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm either, a 2, which is hyper creative yet scattered focus, and if I don't have an assistant following me around, with a notepad, nothing is saved. Or I am so focused that literally I will get lost in another world like Caleb does. And although I don't see hyperspace, it's like, nothing else is going on. And that's not safe either because I got a 6-month-old baby in the house,
It's that you're not able to see hyperspace yet.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and just let me add to, I'm willing to go another 10 minutes with you gentlemen, but I really have to go, and I'm hoping beyond hope that we can do this again because this is just amazing. So we'll continue, and then in about 10 minutes we'll just stop.
Okay, then I'll tell you what. I'm gonna make a final statement and a thank you, and then let Vince expound on the fine tuning of how to use NLP hypnosis to help engineer the type of minds that serve us. But I wanted to thank you, Chrissy, for inviting me on. If you're looking for a co-marketing, co-branding partner, you've got my love and energy anytime. I'm really good. I'm really good at quadrupling both listenership and cash flow, usually within a 60 to 90 day period. And Vince, listen, man, I'm going to give you the floor for the last 8 minutes here. You're an expert. There were a lot of people like me that were, former establishment professionals who are now trying to make the transition into, true reality and translate those experiences. It can NLP and hypnosis be used for that?
Oh, yes, definitely. Based off of all the information that you've actually been speaking of, there's not much that NLP and hypnosis can't do, especially when you combine it with all of the other things like sacred geometry, hypervisualization, deep meditation. All of these things can actually help to not only amplify but amplify manifestation. Now, one of the things that I've always been interested in is improving myself. Learning about, increasing learning skill, improving memory, running faster, jumping higher, just any possible thing to improve myself in any type of knowledge. And one of the things that I always theorize is that if somebody else can do it, I can do it. And not only that, but I've always thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could actually literally download the information from somebody else, make a copy, and then download it into myself? And for many years, I was thinking, oh, okay, whatever. And then I found out about NLP. NLP can actually help you as long as someone has the skill and you're able to communicate with them properly. You would actually be able to figure out not only what the skill is, but how they do their skill, and learn how to do that particular skill, which is why if you say that you want to be able to be more focused while also being creative, or at least find the middle ground, you definitely can do that because someone else can. All we have to do is find out exactly what you're experiencing now, where you want to be, and how to get there.
Wonderful. And I posted a little hypnosis anchoring demo, NLP hypnosis anchoring demo. And also, I'd love you gentlemen to give me your websites or any information, if you want to type it into the bottom there, and I'll put it in the chat.
I'll be sure to. I would really like to put some sweat equity into promoting both you, Vince, Michael, and Caleb. So if we could use applied sacred geometrics as the common watering hole, I'd really like to see if we could get our several hundred membership to virally promote all of you guys there.
That'd be awesome.
That would be amazing. The person who's supposed to take over the stream isn't here yet, so we can keep talking. And there's nothing I can do. I'm already late for my appointment, so just keep going.
Okay, so are you going to take off, Chris, or you're going to stay on? Because, to be honest with you, I'll just do Q&A at this point. I talk too much, so if someone wants to ask questions, I'm happy to answer them.
How about if we just let Caleb and Vincent kind of fill in the space a little bit? Because Caleb really didn't get to talk too much, and Vincent just came on. So, and I think Caleb messaged me that what he feels he does is self-hypnosis. So maybe he could explain that a little bit more.
Well, actually, Vince, I know Caleb very well, and one of the challenges Caleb has, as a young person who's 17 and who has not been to a lot of school, he's trying to figure out how to translate his social skills into being more effective and be able to really understand empathetically other people's minds and hearts. Is there a way to use NLP for that, for a guy as gifted as Caleb who has a mind that works like a supercomputer?
Oh, definitely. Oh, absolutely. Well, the thing is, because of the fact that his brain works, and actually everybody's brain works like a supercomputer. The only difference between everyone else and him is that he's accessing more of it and using it in a special manner. Now, in order to translate to have more social skills and such like that, yeah, definitely. It's just that it's a skill that he hasn't learned yet.
So, Caleb, do you want to ask a question as to like one element that you'd like to get supercharged quickly through, like this type of technology? I don't know if Caleb's still with us, is he?
Well, give me a second and we'll put him back.
Okay, great.
Vincent, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Caleb, are you back?
Yes, I am.
Okay, did you hear the question? We're talking about your
Yes, I did hear the question. The question. I missed Vincent's reply.
Vincent,
well, basically, Caleb, here's the question. You've suddenly been thrust into a world where you've got sponsors flying you out of Idaho, in the middle, basically in the middle, from the middle of nowhere out to L.A. and Hawaii. You're going to be more and more well known, and you're very articulate, and you're a wonderful guy. But you feel yourself, and you've shared with me that there's certain things in terms of communication, empathy, social skills that you'd like to learn super fast, super painlessly, and learn them, amplify them fast.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything? And listen, if you guys could do a pro bono energy exchange with each other, we could do a show around that. How Vincent helps you transform those skills.
Yeah,
well, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, Vince, what would you do for a guy like Caleb who is just, super, super special, super gifted, but would like to know how to talk to girls or just have a good time out with the
It comes with practice.
Well, true, but remember what I said earlier.
Yes.
Almost everything that everybody can't do isn't because they can't do it, it's because they don't know how. And one of the things that tends to hold them back is fear.
Right.
And I don't.
Yes.
Right. So,
I do have fear of not knowing how to do something.
Right. So the whole thing is that one of the things is once you're able to remove and release fear from your essence, everything else becomes that much easier. And you'll actually be able to, because one thing people aren't really aware of is that even though everybody might not necessarily be aware of energy fields, people can actually sense other people's energy. So if you're afraid when you go to talk to a girl, she's going to sense that. Whether it's the energy field, whether it's pheromones, it doesn't really make a difference. The end result is that they can sense your fear and they don't like it. I mean, fear literally stinks. So if you can learn how to either reduce, but I would suggest releasing all the fear, then just be yourself. And it's kind of funny when people say to be yourself. Most people don't understand is that if, depending on the person, that's not necessarily the best advice. Because even though you might be an awesome person, if you don't go with a really good package, and I'm not saying the way that you look, but I'm just saying, like, you know, various other skills that you might have. If you go and talk to a girl and you're a Dungeons and Dragons nerd and you're wearing a pocket protector, unless she's into that type of thing, she won't really give you any time. But you could still be a D&D nerd, a Dungeons and Dragons nerd, with, you know, but the thing is, you may want to put out the best possible parts of you. So I can definitely help you and show you how to release your fear, make it easier for you to talk to girls. And there's also this thing called approach anxiety that, as far as I know, is hardwired into people. I can also help you with that and show you how that you can approach anybody minus anxiety, be happy and safe, and feel awesome.
Thank you very much. I would definitely love to learn that.
Actually, you know, Vince.
Hello?
Yeah, we're still here, Vincent.
Oh, okay. Is Rob there?
Is Rob there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Rob's back. What happened?
Sorry about that. What I wanted to share was I had a lot of, if not anxiety, definitely like Neanderthal awkwardness with women all the way up into my 30s. And it wasn't until I took an NLP intensive, and then on the side, I had one of the best NLP instructors in on the Northeast, Doug O'Brien. And Doug O'Brien used to be Tony Robbins' right-hand man and representative in New York. On the side, while I was taking the intensive course, I also took a course in, approaching women and using NLP to lower your fear in approaching women. I'm telling you, it's the best way to learn NLP. If you're awkward or you're lonely or you're not dating the kind of people you want to date, and you use NLP to learn how to communicate with the opposite sex, that is a real motivator to learn quickly.
Okay, so we don't have dead air. Vincent, did you want to add to that?
Well, I'm actually familiar with some of the things that he's talking about. And one of the things that I've often noticed about some of those social relationship coaches is that they don't actually make it easy. I mean, they'll make it easier so you know what to do, something that you didn't have before. Although a lot of times they won't actually, they don't make it second nature. They say, oh, if you want to get better, you have to practice, like you said. Or if you want to get better, you have to go out and do things that you already find fearful, which actually would tend to hold a lot of people back. And there are ways for you to make a lot of those particular skills second nature. I mean, it requires a little bit more effort, but you'll actually be able to get those skills a heck of a lot faster. And you'll wind up being able to, as I said before, approach groups of people, approach women, men, whoever it is, and you'll actually feel totally comfortable. And actually, one of the really cool things is that if you're able to generate that type of energy where it's almost like you don't, it's not that you don't care, like I said, you're just confident in yourself, people will actually start approaching you.
Right. And there's another closed Facebook page called Neuro-Linguistic Engineering. And I'm going to have Vincent co-administrate that site. And I'm going to talk more about the academic construction and deconstruction of reality through language so that people can understand the illusions that they're being faced with that are creating fear. And then Vincent might be a little bit more along the lines of healing people, you know, getting over things like neuroses, fears, and types of that type of training.
Now, I think what you gentlemen are saying is really instructive. I think just the practice of trying to overcome your own fears by doing things that you fear themselves. It's kind of, what do you call it, a crash course sense, a way of overcoming them. But it seems to be the most practical way to do it. It really is. And for a gentleman to go up to a woman and say, "Hi, how are you? My name's Caleb," or whatever. "I'm Chrissy." "Who are you? What's your name?" You know, and just start simple, and you would be surprised. And you'll know right away if you want to even continue the conversation with the individual. It might not even be somebody you want to talk to. So you have a lot of options and you have a lot of choices.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of and it's really interesting that most people don't understand that beautiful man or that beautiful woman across the room that you go talk to, you might not even like that person. But the thing is, you won't know that until you actually talk to them.
Right.
Just talk to them.
Well, guys, I'm going to thank you for the time and sign off. If Caleb, Vince, and Chrissy would like to stay on, please do. And Chrissy, please reach out to me and we'll talk about a promotional campaign for you, okay?
Oh, wonderful, Rob. And, you know, I don't know how to thank you. This has been one of the best interviews I've ever had. And I've been doing this since 2009. So this is just an amazing experience. And the individuals that I've had the privilege and pleasure to talk to today, it's just been amazing. And I'm sure everybody who's listened has really appreciated it as well. And maybe, Rob, you and I could talk about doing this again sometime in the future. Or I would like to participate in some way with your group.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, Chrissy, I wear my heart on my sleeve and I show my cards. I would really like you to be kind of like a radio show blog host, and I'd like to get it all the way to iTunes and get it popular on iTunes. That's my goal, and I'd like to do it fast. So I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you, Rob. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, do you have any last words?
I'd actually like to ask Vincent a few things.
Go ahead.
Okay.
One of the things I'm currently struggling with the most is commitment and actually fulfilling that commitment. When I say, for example, Rob asked me to come up with 3 questions for this talk we're having now that he could ask me and then I would answer. And I had started that, but I didn't finish it. That's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of where I'm at. It's like I'm afraid of starting certain things because I'm tired of not finishing what I start. And then things I do start, it takes me a while to, I don't always finish them. I have a hard time finishing them.
So you're scared to start things because you don't finish things that you start.
Yeah.
So when did you start not finishing things?
I really don't know how to answer that question. It's like...
Well, I just want you to fully consider this. When did you start not finishing things? Or when did you finish not starting things? Now, I just want you to fully consider both of those. And I want you to think about and tell me what you're experiencing right now.
Right now, I'm sort of experiencing like somewhat like bewilderment, like almost sort of like, what are you saying?
Essentially that's because you haven't thought this way before. In most cases, when people think in a certain way, let it be fear or whatever, they're actually contained in one part of the universe, if you will. You're only using a certain part of your neurology. And what I just did is I showed you different ways to think about what you were thinking about, which in order for you to think about them caused you to think about things that you didn't think about before. Which, when you think about it, makes it so that you can't think about what you thought about previously the same way anymore. And I know you're probably... Well, yeah. And the interesting thing is, you'll probably notice that it's going to be a lot easier for you not only to start things, but also to finish things. And there's no need and no reason for the fear. It could just go away. Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Here.
God.
Hold on a second. Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
We're here.
Okay. That's actually a little bit more it's a bit more specific and a bit more, I wouldn't even say advanced, but most people tend not to think that way. So just by having them think in a different way than they normally would, essentially like going up and talking to someone that they've never met before, because it's hardwired that if you don't know a person, quote unquote, it's hardwired that if you don't know a person and you go and speak with them, that they may kill you. If you want to go back to previous evolution before. Now that tends not to be the case, although people still experience that approach anxiety. Now I'll just say this: starting things and finishing them can help you to have the opposite of the feeling of fear. Because once you finish it, there'll be no reason to have the fear in the first place.
That makes sense.
Was there anything else?
I muted my mic because the trash trucks are out here, but we're going to have to stop in about 10 minutes. So
Okay.
I welcome your questions and answers. They're just wonderful, and everybody's very appreciative. Thank you.
Well, Chrissy, did you have any questions?
Well,
comments,
I think we're basically on the same wavelength, although I don't understand the neuro-linguistic process that you're talking about. I'm not privy to that. I think what you're saying and the way you're feeling, I'm resonating it, and I just love how this conversation is unfolding, and I really appreciate. We kind of lost Vincent, but I really appreciate. I can't find him. He'll have to call back, but I really appreciate what you've done, what you've had to say, Caleb, and Vincent, and Michael, and Rob, and it's just been a wonderful conversation. You back, Vince?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you. I really enjoyed being here.
Likewise.
And do you guys have any websites or links that you'd like to share with the listening audience?
Well, I have a website. I have two. One is mindcraftcoaching.com, all one word. mindcraftcoaching.com, and also vincentswanagan.com,
Okay.
also all one word.
I think I posted that one a little earlier. I'll go try to find it. There it is.
Okay.
I'll repost that one. And how about you, Caleb?
I have one website that I created for something I have done a little bit with. I created a website for this one person, and I got paid like $300 for that,
Good for you.
and I really enjoyed the experience.
I bet.
So, anyways, the website that I created for, I guess, the bit I doing a little bit of web development now and then is calebscreations.com, with creation spelled with a K.
.com.
Yes, I'll type the link into the chat.
Is that it?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, I'm trying to collect all these links because there's been a lot of information disseminated throughout this 3-hour plus conversation, and I just want to repeat myself that this has probably been the best interview that I've done in all these years, and
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm so grateful that the space is opening up for this type of conversation. And I'd like to continue this. So if you gentlemen are open, I'd like to keep your information, and maybe we can do this again soon.
That'd be awesome.
I also have a Facebook group called Parareality 369.
You want to type that in so I can add it?
Sure.
Okay, and I'm just going to say thank you to the listeners, and I want to just acknowledge that we're on awakeradio.co.uk, and at the top of the hour, we were disconnected from We Roar Radio at weroar.ws, and I want to thank them over there for the simulcast and for sharing the airwaves with us and giving us the opportunity to spread this information even further. And I want to make a special thank you for Rob Sullivan for not only the expense that he put into trying to promote this wonderful discussion, and it really was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity, and I do feel very privileged to have been a part of it, more a facilitator than converser, but he really did a wonderful job promoting and bringing all you wonderful people together. Michael, Caleb, and Vincent. Can you say your name again so I don't butcher it?
Swanagan.
Swanagan. And thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to let you go. I have about 4 minutes left. Thank you, and I'll be talking to you soon.
All right.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.